Chapter 1. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Charlotte's, I was injured by the electric arc. Save him. Some people on the construction site were screaming, some were running, and some were anxiously calling for the ambulance. The whole scene was a mess. Xiaolei was curled up in a ball in the welding area of the construction site. His left eye had been charred black by the electric arc, and a burnt smell came from it. Blood and dust mixed together on his face, making for a tragic sight. Sigh, such a young and handsome boy, and one of his eyes is ruined. What a pity. Someone sighed. He has a sister at home who got into university. If he's blind, how can his sister go to university? Sigh. Xiaolei's a pretty nice guy. He's always fighting for work, and he's friendly too. Why did something like this happen to him? The heavens must be blind. There was a lot of discussion, and many people were sighing. Charlotte's mother died of an illness when he was young, and 5 years ago, his father mysteriously disappeared. That year, he was admitted to Capital University, but when he thought about his sister, Xia Shui, who was still in junior high school, he teared up the admission letter with tears in his eyes. When his sister asked him, he said he didn't get in by a few marks. Since then, he started working at the construction site. As long as he could earn money, he would do any work. Now, his sister was admitted to Capital University, but he was in trouble after a short period of numbness. Intense pain swept over Charlotte's body. Then, his vision turned black, and he fainted. Someone was calling his name, but he couldn't hear them. In the darkness, he felt like his body was floating in a river, floating and sinking, heading in the direction of hell. People who had fainted were not aware of time. After an unknown amount of time, Charlotte opened his eyes. He saw a ray of light, and then a chubby face. It was a childhood friend, Ma Shaoan. However, because he could only open his right eye, he couldn't see clearly, and he felt like he was seeing double. Lei, you're awake? Ma Shaoan's voice was trembling, and he seemed very excited. Where am I? As he spoke, Charlotte was reminded of something. He reached out to touch his left eye. His left eye was wrapped in gauze, and he felt a burning pain when he touched it. Ma Shaoan grabbed Charlotte's hand. Don't worry, Lei. The doctor said that your left eye may not necessarily be blind. If you treat it properly, you will definitely recover. Not necessarily? What does not necessarily mean? Charlotte was very anxious, and his emotions were somewhat out of control. Ma Shaoan wanted to say something, but stopped. He seemed to know something, but didn't dare to say it out loud. Tell me. Charlotte became even more anxious. At this time, a middle-aged man walked in from the door. He was slightly chubby and wore a branded suit. He was wearing gold and silver. He looked very extravagant. He was the owner of the construction company, Chen Chuanhu. Seeing Chen Chuanhu come in, Ma Shaoan also moved aside a little. Charlotte struggled to sit up on the bed and greeted President Chen. Why are you? Before he could finish, Chen Chuanhu interrupted him. Charlotte, what are you doing? Not only did you burn a welding machine, but you also burned a transformer. Do you know that a welding machine and a transformer cost more than 20,000 yuan? Not only that, you delayed the construction period. Who will be responsible for this loss? Charlotte was instantly enraged. Just a moment ago, he thought that Chen Chuanhu was here to visit him. He didn't expect that this guy was here to settle accounts. Ma Shaoan couldn't help but say angrily, Surnamed Chen, what do you mean? Huh? My friends, I has a 90% chance of going blind, and you still King say such things. Are you even human? This sentence was like a bomb exploding in Charlotte's head. He was completely stunned. Ma Shaoan suddenly realized that he had spilled the beans. But the words that were spoken were like spilled water. They couldn't be taken back. He was stunned and didn't know how to comfort Charlotte. At this time, Chen Chuanhu sneered. What does this blind eye have to do with me? Do we have an employment contract? No, right? So, even if you sue me to court, I'm not afraid. Charlotte was so angry that his face was ashen. He gritted his teeth. Chen Chuanhu was still adding fuel to the fire. I saw that you were pitiful, so I sent you to the hospital. I paid the hospitalization fee of 10,000 yuan. You could be discharged when you finish the treatment. Also, I'll leave you with a message. This 10,000 yuan is the money to settle the matter. Don't look for me again. It's useless. Bastard, Ma Shaoan said angrily. One eye is blind. You want to settle it with 10,000 yuan? Chen Chuanhu raised his finger and pointed at Ma Shaoan's nose. He suddenly turned hostile. You brat, don't worry about this matter. If you want to find trouble, I'll accompany you. Damn, you don't even know who I am. If you find trouble again, I'll cripple you. At this time, Charlotte suddenly grabbed the cup on the bedside table and threw it at him. With a muffled bang, Chen Chuanhu's head was suddenly smashed. Scarlet blood flowed down. In the blink of an eye, half of his big face was wet. Damn, you dare to hit me. Chen Chuanhu flew into a rage. Suddenly, two thin and tall young men rushed in the door. They had tattoos, earrings, and fierce eyes. At a glance, one could tell that they were gangsters. Beat him for me. Chen Chuanhu pointed at Charlotte on the bed and roared. The two young men then rushed up. Ma Shaoan turned around and blocked Charlotte behind him. The two young men's fists fiercely fell on his head and back. Ma Shaoan gritted his teeth and endured. He used his body to protect Charlotte. At the same time, he also pressed Charlotte to not let him be impulsive. What are you doing? A nurse appeared at the door with a tool cart. She froze for a moment and then screamed. Someone come a fight. The nurse turned around and ran to call security. You little brat, just you wait. Chen Chuanhu left a ruthless sentence and turned around to leave. The two young men also followed him and left. Ma Shaoan then let go of Charlotte. There were several bumps on his head, which made him grimace in pain. Why are you blocking me? Charlotte's emotions were somewhat out of control. He roared, I want to kill him. Kill him? He is a rotten person, but you still have a sister to take care of. He has enjoyed wine, women, avarice, and temper, but you haven't even had a good day. Is it worth it for you? Ma Shaoan sighed. Lazy, calm down. Charlotte was actually not an impulsive person. His parents were not by his side, so he had developed an independent and mature character. But today's situation was really bad. Once he thought about his eyes having a 90% chance of going blind, he couldn't calm down. I'm sorry, Shaoan. Charlotte wanted to say something, but didn't. His heart was in a mess. Ma Shaoan patted Charlotte's shoulder. Why are you being so polite with me? If it were you, you would do the same for me. Indeed, when Ma Shaoan was bullied in the past, Charlotte would always rush to protect him and stand up for him. Do you want me to tell Xiao Shui? No, don't tell her. Charlotte said nervously. She is now tutoring people in school. If she knows, she will be worried. But she'll find out one day, when the time comes. Charlotte bit his lip. When the time comes, we will talk about it. At this time, the nurse came into the room with the security. The security asked Charlotte some questions while the nurse treated the wound on Ma Shaoan's head. After a while, the nurse and the security left, and the matter was left unsettled. Ma Shaoan stayed with Charlotte until the night before leaving the hospital. After he left, Charlotte couldn't sleep. He thought about a lot of things. He thought about the medical fees, his future, and his sister Xia Shui and her dream of going to Kyoto University. Then, tiredness hit him, and he closed his eyes and fell asleep. He didn't know how long he slept, but his left eye began to itch, and he woke up. It was an indescribable itch. It was so itchy that it drilled into his heart. Charlotte called the nurse, but the nurse didn't answer for a long time. He found the pager on the bedside table and pressed it, but the pager was broken. Unlucky. How long will I be unlucky for? What kind of shitty hospital is this? Charlotte was very depressed. He got up from the bed and carefully walked to the door. He wanted to go to the nurse's station, but when he walked to the door, he stopped. The doctors and nurses here know that I have no money. Plus, Chen Chuanhu made a scene during the day, so they're sure that I can't afford the medical fees. If I ask them to check and treat my wound in the middle of the night, they will definitely ignore me. Maybe they will even roll their eyes at me. Forget it. I'll bear with it. Thinking of this, he turned back. The bathroom door was open, and Charlotte saw himself in the mirror. He was actually not bad looking. He had delicate features and was quite handsome. Plus, he was 1.8 meters tall and had a strong body. He was a very bright and handsome young man. Unfortunately, it seemed that all of this was going to leave him. If his left eye was blind and there was a big scar on his face, women would avoid him. His reflection in the mirror made Charlotte feel sad. A sudden itch interrupted Charlotte's thoughts. He secretly pondered, the wound itch is a sign of healing, but I was injured during the day. Why is it itching at night? No, my eye's my own eye. I have to see what's going on. Charlotte entered the bathroom and stood in front of the sink. Facing the mirror, he reached out and untied the gauze. The gauze was peeled off layer by layer. After the last layer of gauze was peeled off, Charlotte saw his left eye. When he saw it, he was stunned. His left eye was covered with a layer of white ointment. The ointment was very thick, but strangely, when he observed his left eye, he vaguely felt that his left eye seemed to be able to see through the thick layer of ointment and see the light in the bathroom. It was just that it was very blurry. How is this possible? Charlotte was stunned. Under normal circumstances, even if his left eye was not injured, with the ointment covering his eye, he would not be able to see anything. But now he actually saw light. What is this situation? Chapter 2. After hesitating for a while, Charlotte finally suppressed his curiosity and didn't reach out to wipe off the ointment on his left eye. Charlotte wrapped the gauze around his head again and returned to bed. He thought a lot and didn't fall asleep until 1 o'clock in the morning. When he woke up, it was already 8 o'clock in the morning. Charlotte didn't feel any pain in his left eye, and he didn't feel any other discomfort. He went to the bathroom and looked at the mirror to remove the gauze on his head. In the mirror, the ointment that covered his eyes had become very thin, and the feeling of seeing light through the ointment was more obvious. What is going on? Is my left eye okay? This thought made Charlotte excited. He couldn't hold back his strong curiosity anymore. He used the gauze to carefully wipe off the ointment on his left eye. During this process, his left eye was slightly painful, but it wasn't unbearable. After wiping off the ointment, light shone into his eyes. Charlotte clearly saw himself in the mirror and his left eye. His left eye was as black as before, and there was no obvious injury on the eyeball. However, the skin around the eye socket had burn marks. Charlotte was stunned for a moment, and he suddenly clenched his fist in excitement. My eye isn't blind. My eye isn't blind. Haha, my eye isn't blind. At this time, a doctor on duty walked into the ward with a nurse. They happened to see Charlotte standing in the bathroom and excitedly waving his hands and feet. Hey, why did you remove the gauze? The nurse said angrily. Are you crazy? Don't you want your eye anymore? Charlotte acted as if he didn't hear the people behind him talking. Hey, young man, if you don't follow the doctor's advice, we won't accept you. The doctor on duty's attitude was also very unfriendly. Did you hear that? Forget it. If his injury needs treatment, it will cost at least $200,000. Can a person like him afford such a large amount of money? The nurse said sarcastically. Saleh snapped out of his daze and turned around. At that moment, his left eye twitched. He seemed to have seen the nurse's perky, but that was not covered. The plump, snow-white thing gave him a fright, but when he looked again, it had disappeared. All he saw was a perky but wrapped in a protective skirt. Although the curves were good, they were completely different from what he had seen just now. This must be an illusion. How can I have such an illusion? Charlotte was surprised and curious. Hey, I'm talking to you. What's wrong with you? The nurse said with dissatisfaction. The nurse hadn't reacted yet, but the doctor did. He stared at Charlotte in shock, then pointed at Charlotte's left eye. What's wrong with your eye? Only then did the nurse react. Her jaw dropped to the ground. Charlotte grinned. My eyes will heal on their own. I really can't afford the medical fees, so I won't stay in the hospital anymore. I won't be discharged. The doctor and nurse looked at Charlotte as if they were looking at a monster. The most surprised and puzzled person was naturally the doctor. He had already determined that Charlotte's left eye was definitely blind. He said that he had a chance to recover his sight, but he just wanted to earn more medical fees. But now, Charlotte was looking at him with both eyes. Perhaps only God could explain what happened to Charlotte. An hour later, Charlotte left the hospital. Chen Chuan only used 1,000 of the 10,000 yuan he paid, leaving 9,000 yuan. This money naturally fell into his pocket as compensation. The sunlight outside was dazzling, and Charlotte's left eye was not used to it. He gave up the idea of looking for Ma Xiao and called a taxi to return home. The house left by his parents wasn't big. It was 75 square meters, with 3 bedrooms and 1 living room. Each room was small. There wasn't any valuable furniture or electrical appliances in the house. The things in the house were old and had a history of more than 10 years. However, these old things always brought a sense of peace to Charlotte and some memories of his parents. Back home, without the strong sunlight, Charlotte's left, I felt better. What the hell is going on? It feels like I had a strange dream. When it was quiet, Charlotte began to think about this problem again. He wanted to find the answer, but he didn't have the slightest clue. "Lazy, are you at home?" A woman's voice came from downstairs. Charlotte's thoughts were suddenly pulled back to reality. He responded and then went to the balcony. Downstairs, a young policewoman was looking up at him. She had a beautiful face, a full body, and a low neckline that revealed a touch of snow-white skin. She was very attractive. This woman's name was Jiang Rui. She was a civilian policewoman who lived downstairs. They were neighbors and childhood friends who played hide and seek in the mud together, so their relationship had always been very good. "Rui, why are you looking for me?" Charlotte smiled and greeted her. "Can you help me change the bucket? My hand is a little injured, so I can't carry it." Jiang Rui said. "Okay, I'll come down right away." Charlotte left the balcony. When he went downstairs, a ray of sunlight suddenly shone into Charlotte's left eye. It felt like a needle was pricked. Under the stinging pain, his left eye also turned black, and he couldn't see anything. Charlotte's heart suddenly tensed up, but before he could do anything, his left eye suddenly recovered. At this moment, Jiang Rui, who was standing not far away, was suddenly pulled by his left eye. Her clothes seemed to be a transparent gauze draped over her body, so that the spring scenery under the clothes was exposed to his sight. In the blink of an eye, even the layer of transparent gauze disappeared, and she stood completely naked in his sight. Slender waist, amazing breasts, and a nosebleed. Charlotte, who had never seen a woman's body before, was stunned, and his physiological reaction was suddenly triggered. Charlotte suddenly remembered the time when he saw the nurses, but in the hospital. It wasn't an illusion, it was real. At that time, it was just a sign, but now it was even stronger. What's going on? Jiang Rui was clearly wearing clothes, but in my left eye, she didn't have any clothes on her body. Is it because of the electric arc? It must be. Charlotte's heart was very surprised. His left eye was burned by the electric arc, and the doctor concluded that his left eye would go blind, but his left eye not only didn't go blind, but also obtained this magical ability. Now it seems that fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. Yesterday, when he was burned by the electric arc, it seemed to be a misfortune, but it was actually a blessing. "Lazy, are you okay?" Jiang Rui felt that Charlotte was very strange today, especially the way he looked at her. I'm fine." Charlotte looked very nervous. When he was nervous, the naked Jiang Rui in his left eye disappeared. "Lazy, why do you look so distracted today?" Jiang Rui joked. "Tell me, are you dating someone?" Charlotte smiled. "You are younger than me by a month. When did you become my sister? Besides, I am so poor. Which woman would be willing to be with me?" Jiang Rui said, "Don't belittle yourself. You are a good person. There must be a woman who likes you." As they talked and laughed, Charlotte's mood also relaxed, and a bad idea lurking in his heart suddenly emerged. As a result, Jiang Rui's clothes were instantly stripped by his sight, and she stood naked in front of him. This time, at a closer distance, he almost had a nosebleed. Although he didn't have a nosebleed, the fabric of his pants seemed to be tense. After 2 consecutive X-ray vision, Charlotte finally figured out a pattern, which was that desire was this switch to activate the ability of his left eye. As long as he had the desire to see through a target, his left eye would activate the X-ray vision ability. After entering Jiang Rui's home, Charlotte helped her change the bucket on the water dispenser. It was very strange. After he changed the bucket to the water dispenser, his head was dizzy, and his body seemed to be empty, weak, and lacking strength. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "I suddenly feel tired and sleepy, as if I haven't eaten or slept for 2 days. Is this related to my X-ray vision ability? It seems that this ability can't be used casually. I have to control it. Lazy, let me buy you a drink." Jiang Rui walked over and handed a Pepsi to Charlotte. Charlotte turned around to look at her, and a strange scene happened. He saw Jiang Rui wearing a red bikini. She was smiling, and her eyes were moving. Her charm was more seductive than the female lead in the Japanese romance movies. You. Charlotte was stunned. What are you doing? Take it. It's a Coke. Jiang Rui handed the Coke to Charlotte. Charlotte's eyes moved to Jiang Rui's hand. He took a step back, and his face was full of horror. What he saw was not a can of Coke, but a condom. The bikini with the least amount of fabric and the condom with the colorful packaging were obviously not real, but in Charlotte's eyes, it was real. Not only did he see such an illusion, but in his mind, there was also an image that he couldn't tell if it was real or illusory. In this image, Jiang Rui tore the colorful packaging and gently put on for him. Lazy, what's wrong with you? Is there a problem? Jiang Rui asked curiously. Jiang Rui's voice woke Charlotte up. He shook his head hard, and the illusion in front of him disappeared. But then his legs went soft, and then he staggered and fell into Jiang Rui's arms. Jiang Rui's chest was very soft and fragrant, as if it could contain all the desire of the sea. What was worse was that when he fell into her arms, Charlotte's lips were still on Jiang Rui's cheek. Fragrant face, tender face, feel like vanilla cream cake. Jiang Rui was nervous to death, and her face turned red. She subconsciously stepped back, but Charlotte's body leaned forward with her, and the feeling of those damn lips was even stronger. Lazy, what are you doing? Jiang Rui was angry and panicked, and her legs went soft. Charlotte hurriedly propped himself up from Jiang Rui's arms, and his face was red. I'm sorry. I tripped. You did it on purpose, right? Lazy, right? Jiang Rui stared at Charlotte, and her eyes were full of anger and tenderness. Charlotte hurriedly stepped back and said awkwardly, No, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. In his heart, he was very clear that using the X-ray vision would consume a lot of spiritual energy, so he had that kind of strange illusion just now. Lazy, you're so strange today. Jiang Rui was not satisfied with Charlotte's explanation. Rui, if there's nothing else, I'll go back. Well, next time I want to change the bucket, just call me. Charlotte didn't dare to stay any longer and turned to leave. Thank you, Lazy. Jiang Rui sent Charlotte out. Charlotte said with a smile, Go back. You don't have to send me off. You and I have been friends for more than 20 years. Why are you so polite? Jiang Rui's mouth also showed a trace of a smile. I pretended to be polite to you, can't I? Also, I've long wanted to persuade you to find a proper job. Don't go to the construction site. That's not a long-term thing. Charlotte nodded with a bitter smile and turned to leave. Who would want to live a better life? Living in a comfortable big house, driving a good car, walking with dignity, being respected, and not being looked down upon. These were all inseparable from money, and what Charlotte lacked the most was money. Chun Chuanhu paid 10,000 yuan for the medical expenses. I was discharged in advance, and there was 9,000 left. This money is enough for my sister to pay for her tuition, but she has to go to the capital to study, and the accommodation and living expenses will be more expensive, so I have to prepare 20,000 yuan for her. I'm still short of 10,000 yuan. What should I do? Thinking of money, Charlotte's head hurt. Unknowingly, Charlotte walked out of the community. The sun shone on him, and on the streets of Haizhu City, cars came and went, strangers passed by, and it was a scene of a hurry. By the way, now that I have the X-ray vision ability, do I still need to go to the construction site to work? Why don't I use my ability to make money? My sister and I will definitely live a better life. Thinking of this, Charlotte couldn't help but look up in the direction of Macau, south of Haizhu City. He already had a very bold plan in his heart. Chapter 3. The evening sea breeze brought a trace of coolness to Haizhu City. What? Charlotte was discharged from the hospital? At the hospital nurse's station, Ma Xiaoan, who came to see Charlotte, was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. His eyes are fine. Our hospital's beds are tight, so he was discharged. The nurse said, His eyes are fine. Ma Xiaoan was even more shocked. What's the matter with you? The nurse was not happy and said impatiently, If you have any questions, ask him directly. I have something to do here. Don't delay my work. I'm sorry. Ma Xiaoan turned and left. He took out his mobile phone and dialed Charlotte's number, but Charlotte's mobile phone was turned off. Ma Xiaoan stopped at the elevator door and wondered, what is this kid doing? The elevator door suddenly opened, and Chun Chuanhu and several young men came out of the elevator. Seeing Chun Chuanhu, Ma Xiaoan suddenly became nervous. He turned around and wanted to leave, but the young men brought by Chun Chuanhu followed and surrounded him. What do you want? Ma Xiaoan's voice was a little trembling. What do I want? Chun Chuanhu sneered and said, Damn, you and Charlotte cheated me of my money. I just called the doctor, and the doctor told me that Charlotte's eyes are fine, and he's been discharged. He not only burned my welding machine and transformer, but also blackmailed me of 10,000 yuan for medical expenses. What do you think I want to do? This is a misunderstanding. Ma Xiaoan bit the bullet and said, Misunderstanding your mother. Chun Chuanhu said angrily, First beat this kid, and then take him to find Charlotte. I don't believe he can hide in the sky. Several youths swarmed over and punched and kicked Ma Xiaoan. These young men were cruel and merciless. They knocked Ma Xiaoan to the ground in a few blows, but they still didn't mean to stop. They surrounded Ma Xiaoan and kicked his body fiercely. Ma Xiaoan hugged his head and curled up his body. There was a voice in his heart. Lazy run, don't stay at home. Charlotte couldn't see this scene. Just as Ma Xiaoan was wailing, he had just walked into the lobby of the Grand Lisboa de Macau. Haizhu City was separated from Macau by a river. It was very convenient to travel from Zhuhai to Macau. Without a pass, it would only cost 200 yuan to take a black boat. Charlotte came by the Kirofian this time. He didn't want anyone to know that he was in Macau, so he turned off his cell phone before leaving. Coming to the Macau casino was the fastest way to directly cash out the X-ray vision ability. Charlotte exchanged 8,000 yuan worth of chips at the front desk and went to a blackjack table. A woman in a black evening gown was playing cards at the gambling table. Her hips and waist were curvy. She had a cold and elegant temperament. She was sexy and beautiful, but no one dared to approach her. Charlotte didn't dare to look too much. He was afraid that he couldn't help but use his X-ray vision and waste the opportunity to make money. The woman in the black evening gown also glanced at Charlotte, but she just glanced at him and looked away. Charlotte looked good, but his clothes were too ordinary. She didn't seem to have any interest in looking at him. When Xiaolei walked over, she and the dealer had just finished this round of gambling. The dealer's card was 19 points, and her card was 17 points. The dealer won this round. I'm really unlucky. I didn't even win once. I don't want to play anymore. The woman in the black evening gown muttered. She frowned slightly and looked very unhappy. Charlotte sat at the gambling table and carefully put his 8,000 chips on the gambling table. Sir, do you want to play cards? The female dealer said with a smile. Charlotte nodded. Please place your bet. The female dealer kept her smile. Charlotte wasn't in a hurry to place his bet, but he looked straight at the card box in front of the female dealer. At this moment, his left eye focused on the first card in the dealer. The back of the card became thin and transparent in the blink of an eye. The number and color of the card also came into his sight. It was an ace of spades. Sir, the female dealer urged. Please place your bet. Charlotte smiled. I'm thinking about how much I should bet. The female dealer looked at the pitiful amount of chips in front of Charlotte, and a trace of contempt appeared on the corner of her mouth. In her opinion, Charlotte was most likely a wage earner from the mainland. This kind of person would usually think for a long time before placing a bet, because their chips were their hard-earned money. If they lost, it would be gone. Just when the female dealer looked down on Charlotte in her heart, Charlotte had already used his ability to see through the 4 cards in the dealer. The first was an ace of spades, the second was a 9 of hearts, the third was a king of spades, and the fourth was an ace of hearts. According to the regular order of dealing, it meant that he would get blackjack in this round, and the odds were doubled. Withdrawing his gaze from the dealer, Charlotte pushed all his chips out. 8,000, I'll bet all of them. The female dealer's contemptuous smile was even thicker. She dealt the cards to Charlotte, but in her heart, she was thinking about his dejected look when he left. Although he knew what the cards were, Charlotte still pretended to be a gambler. He used the name card to press the hidden card, and then moved the name card away little by little. His mouth said, "Ace of spades, ace of spades." The eyes of the woman in the black evening dress also moved to Charlotte, and there was a trace of contempt in her eyes. "Huh, blackjack." Charlotte turned over the hidden card, and he looked very excited. The female dealer glanced at her hidden card. When she found that her card was 20 points, her expression was as if she had eaten a fly. 8,000 chips became 24,000, which was really easy to get. But if he didn't have the ability to see in advance what he was going to get, Charlotte would certainly not dare to bet all at once. "Sir, please place your bet," the female dealer said. Charlotte moved his gaze to the dealer again. He looked at the cards on the dealer's face in turn. He found that he could only get a 6 of diamonds and a 7 of clubs, while the dealer could get a 9 of hearts and a queen of diamonds, which added up to 19 points. If he wanted a card, the first card would be a 9 of spades, which was a blowout. This was a card that he knew he was going to lose. Charlotte put 500 chips in the betting area, which was the lowest bet. "Sir, why are you betting so little this time?" The female dealer said, "I think your luck is good. You just had a blackjack. Are you sure you only bet 500 this time?" "Just bet 500. Deal the cards." Xiaolei remained unmoved. The female dealer put her hands on the gambling table and leaned forward. Her low neckline suddenly revealed a deep cleavage and a touch of snow-white skin. She also had a seductive smile on her face. "Sir, please believe me. Your luck is just right. You have to increase the bet to win more. Don't waste your good luck." The corner of Xiaolei's mouth also revealed a trace of smile. His eyes swept slightly, and the entire chest of the female dealer came into his line of sight without any cover. Her chest was padded, which was much smaller. It was ridiculous that she actually tempted him to increase the bet with her career line. Charlotte shook his head. "It's fake. It's too small." The female dealer was slightly stunned. "What did you say?" "Nothing. 500. Please deal." Charlotte said. "Monkey." The female dealer cursed in her heart and gave Charlotte the cards. Xiaolei purposely blew his hand this time and lost 500. The female dealer frowned and took away Charlotte's 500 chips. Although she won against Charlotte, she was not happy at all. In the third round, Charlotte suddenly put all the chips in the betting area. This time, Charlotte got 20 points and the female dealer got 19 points. The 27,500 bets suddenly doubled. The woman in the black evening dress did not leave. She looked at Charlotte with a strange look. In this way, in just more than 10 minutes, Charlotte bet a total of 11 times. He lost 6 times and won 5 times. The chips in front of him had become 210,000. When he lost, he bet 500 chips. When he won, he bet all his chips. Looking at the pile of chips in front of Charlotte, the female dealer's forehead was full of sweat. It was not because she was scared by the 200,000 chips, but because the young man in front of her was too strange. When she won against him, she could only win 500, but when he won tens of thousands. If this goes on, it will be terrible. Just when the female dealer was about to press the bell to call the casino's expert, Charlotte stood up from the table. "Today's luck is not very good. Forget it. I won't gamble anymore." The female dealer stared at Charlotte. This slap in the face was so painful. It was not that Charlotte did not want to win more money, but after more than 10 minutes, he was exhausted to the extreme. He could not use his X-ray vision anymore. Another reason was that he knew that although this kind of money was easy to come by, he must not be too greedy. If he won 200,000, the casino didn't care at all. If he won millions, someone would definitely pay attention to him. 200,000 was enough to pay for Xia Shui's tuition. When Charlotte thought of this, he was happy. After exchanging the chips, Charlotte directly deposited the money into 2 cards. One was 180,000 and the other was 30,000. Walking out of the Lisbon Grand Casino, the cool sea breeze blew across his cheeks. Only then did his head become sober. Just now, when he gambled with the female dealer for the last round, he actually had an illusion in his eyes. The female dealer obviously gave him the cards, but what he saw was a ricochet, and it was a pink ricochet. Fortunately, this illusion would not appear for too long, and it soon disappeared. Charlotte walked down the steps. He was going to call a car to the port and then take a boat back to Haiju City. A woman also walked down the steps and stood on the side of the road. She also looked like she was waiting for a car. She was tall, and she was as tall as him in high heels. Although she was tall, she didn't look thin. Her figure was curvy and full of beauty. Charlotte looked at her carefully and suddenly realized that this woman was the woman who had been watching him gamble with the dealer on the side of the gambling table. She didn't see that I won 200,000, so she wanted to hit on me, right? Charlotte's heart suddenly came up with such an idea. But when he saw the LV bag hanging on the woman's shoulder, he immediately dispelled this ridiculous idea. This woman's bag cost tens of thousands. Would she be interested in his 200,000? The woman didn't speak, and she didn't even look at Charlotte. She's so cold and arrogant. I really don't know what kind of man can stand her. Charlotte secretly thought in his heart. At this inadvertent moment, Charlotte's gaze suddenly moved to the roof of a building across the road. His gaze suddenly froze, and he couldn't move away. On the edge of the roof of the building, a man wearing a baseball cap was lying on the ground. In front of him was a sniper rifle, and he was aiming at the woman in a black evening dress next to Charlotte. Be careful. Charlotte hugged the woman's waist and rolled to the ground with her. As soon as the two fell to the ground, a bullet hit the place where the woman had just stood, and sparks flew. Chapter 4. The moment the woman was pinned down by Charlotte, she wanted to slap Charlotte, but before her slap could land on Charlotte's face, she saw the sparks from the bullet hitting the concrete floor. At that moment, she seemed to understand what had happened. She suddenly opened her legs and clamped onto Charlotte's waist, then flipped over so that she was on top, and Charlotte was on the bottom. The man was on the bottom, and the woman was on top. The woman's snow-white legs were exposed from under her dress, and there was a black lace bottom. Her posture caused the lace bottom to tighten, and the scene that made people's blood boil was clearly presented in front of Charlotte's eyes, which made him even more nervous. The woman's legs suddenly exerted force, and she clamped onto Charlotte and rolled toward the flower bed on the side. Puff! The two had just rolled behind the flower bed, and there was a burst of sparks where they had been. A bullet hit the road and changed direction, shattering the window of a shop on the side of the road. Cold sweat suddenly appeared on Charlotte's forehead. The sidewalk suddenly became a mess. Some people ran, some people lay down, and some people shouted. With the flower bed as cover, Charlotte and the woman were temporarily safer. Who are you? The woman's voice was as cold as she was. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. I don't know you. I saw someone aiming a gun at you, and in a moment of panic, I jumped on you. I've seen that building before. It was so far away, and it was at night. I couldn't see it clearly, but you saw it. How did you see it? The woman looked straight at Charlotte. Her eyes were so sharp that they seemed to be able to see through a person's soul. The reason why Charlotte could see the sniper on the roof of the opposite building was, of course, the ability of his left eye. His left eye could not only see through people and objects, but it could also zoom in on distant objects, allowing him to see more clearly. In fact, not only did he see the sniper, but if the sniper had not covered most of his face with a baseball cap, he would have been able to see the sniper's face clearly. Answer my question. The woman's voice became much harsher. The ability of his left eye was a secret. Of course, Charlotte would not tell the woman in front of him. Besides, her attitude had already made him very uncomfortable. So what if I saw it? It was just a coincidence. What's so strange about that? Also, are you going to ride on top of me? Only then did the woman realize that she was still riding on Charlotte, and her face was almost touching his. She awkwardly climbed down from Charlotte's body, but she didn't dare to stick her head out. She just lay beside Charlotte. She even reminded Charlotte, "Lie down, don't move." Charlotte did not move. He did not want to experience the feeling of being shot in the head. He also began to regret saving her on impulse. He didn't even know her name. If the sniper thought that he was with her, wouldn't it be terrible? Thank you for saving me just now. The woman extended a hand to Charlotte. My name is Long Bing. Just when he was thinking that he didn't even know her name, she introduced herself. Charlotte felt a little better. He reached out and shook Long Bing's hand. My name is Charlotte. Where are you from? Charlotte hesitated for a moment before saying, Haiju City. What about you? Actually, when I was in the casino just now, I already knew that you were a mainlander. Long Bing said, I'm from the capital. Why did the sniper want to kill you? Charlotte looked at her. He really wanted to know this. Long Bing's eyebrows slightly furrowed. You don't need to know that. Just then, a few police cars came roaring, and the ear-piercing sirens came from afar. The sound made people nervous. He's already gone, Long Bing suddenly said. How do you know? Charlotte didn't believe it. He was getting more and more curious about Long Bing's identity. There's no why, it's just experience. Long Bing said. Charlotte crawled forward 2 meters, carefully poked half of his head out from the side of the flower terrace, and glanced at the top of the opposite building. The sniper was no longer there. He didn't even know when he left. Do you believe me now? Long Bing climbed up from the ground and patted the dust on her evening dress. What exactly do you do? Charlotte was very clear that the woman in front of him was not an ordinary woman. It was very simple. She already knew that the sniper had left with her experience. If she was an ordinary woman, would she have such experience and confidence? Long Bing said, You'll know when you have the chance. Now you should go quickly. You don't have a pass. If you're caught, you'll be in trouble. Charlotte was very surprised. He thought to himself, Isn't this woman's eyesight too sharp? Wait, this is my business card. If you need any help, you can call the number on it. Long Bing said. Charlotte took a look at the business card that Long Bing handed to him. There was nothing on it except her name and phone number. He thought to himself, This person is strange. Even the business card printed is strange. Although he thought this in his heart, he showed a smile on his face. That's it. I'll treat you to tea some other day. Long Bing said, Don't misunderstand. I just want to return the favor. Charlotte's smile suddenly froze on his face. He awkwardly shrugged his shoulders, then turned around and left. As soon as he left, several police cars stopped on the side of the road. The policemen who got out of the cars were all holding guns. They used the police cars as cover and looked around nervously. They obviously didn't know the situation. Long Bing looked up at the building across the road. She looked at the rooftop of the building, but she only saw a vague outline. She couldn't even see the guardrail on the edge of the rooftop, let alone the person hiding on it. Long Bing retracted her gaze. She looked in the direction where Charlotte left. She was stunned for a long time before she said, My vision is the best too. 0, but I can't see the situation above. How do you see it? Is his vision more than 2? 0? How is this possible? Also, his behavior in the casino is so strange. This guy, I must check his background. Charlotte couldn't hear what Long Bing said at all. He called a car and went straight to the port. When he came, he only had more than 9,000 yuan. When he went back, he was already a person with 210,000 yuan. This money was nothing in the eyes of those rich people, but it was a very valuable wealth for him. He could pay for Xia Shui's tuition. He could also use the remaining money to do some small business or improve his life. It was very useful. When he stepped into the port of Haiju City, Charlotte woke up his phone. Then he saw several missed calls from Ma Xiaoan. He smiled and said, Fatty must have gone to the hospital to see me. When he learned that I was discharged, he couldn't find me, so he was worried about me. I'll buy him an iPhone 6 Plus to make him happy. Charlotte used a domestic mobile phone, which was very cheap, but he was very good to his friends. He was loyal and willing to spend. While waiting for the car on the side of the road, Charlotte dialed Ma Xiaoan's phone. Hello? Xiaoan? It's me, Lazy. Where are you now? I'm coming to find you. Let's go for a night of beer. Drink, drink. Ma Xiaoan's voice came out of the phone. It was intermittent, as if he had something in his mouth. Drink your head. I'm at the hospital. You're in the hospital? Charlotte was shocked. What happened to you? What happened? Which hospital are you in? And in the hospital you left, come, be careful, don't be discovered. Before he finished his sentence, Ma Xiaoan began to pant. You wait for me. I'll be right there. Charlotte hung up the phone and waved at a taxi. Half an hour later, Charlotte came to the hospital that he left this morning. He went to the nurse's station to ask, and then found the ward where Ma Xiaoan was. Ma Xiaoan's head, hands, and legs were wrapped in gauze. The half of his face that was exposed was swollen like a bun. At first glance, he looked like he was beaten badly. Xiaoan, you tell me. Who did this? Charlotte's heart was anxious and angry. Ma Xiaoan smiled bitterly. Who else? Who else can it be? Charlotte suddenly thought of a person. Is it Chen Chuanhu? Ma Xiaoan nodded, and then he told the story intermittently. It turned out that when Chen Chuanhu met Ma Xiaoan in the hospital, he wanted to beat Ma Xiaoan, and then let Ma Xiaoan take him and his men to Charlotte's house to find Charlotte. But he didn't expect that his men were too ruthless. They beat Ma Xiaoan until he vomited blood and couldn't walk. Chen Chuanhu took a few of his men and left, but Ma Xiaoan was lying on the hospital bed. Bastard! Who gave him the right to do this? Is there no law in his eyes? Is there no one in this world who can clean up this evil person? After listening to Ma Xiaoan, Charlotte couldn't control his emotions and punched the hospital bed. Law! Ma Xiaoan smiled bitterly. Leicester, do you know, after Chen Chuanhu beat me, do you know what he said? He said that his uncle is the police chief. We are welcome to sue him at any time. Charlotte said angrily, his uncle is the police chief. Can he do whatever he wants? I called the police. A policeman came to ask about the situation. He just casually asked a few words and left. He didn't intend to pursue Chen Chuanhu's idea. Ma Xiaoan said, later, an old doctor told me that Chen Chuanhu's uncle is called Li Qinghua, the police chief of this area. Chen Chuanhu's projects in this area are continuous. In fact, Li Qinghua is the leader. Chen Chuanhu is just an errand boy. The two of them are related. One has people, and the other has power. They eat from both sides. We can't fight against them. You be careful. He said that you blackmailed him for 10,000 yuan from medical expenses. He also wants you to compensate for the welding machine and the transformer. Leicester, you take Xia Shui and hide for a few days. Hide? What do we have to hide? I was injured at his construction site. If I wasn't lucky, my eyes would be blind. Can 10,000 yuan buy my eyes? Also, he beat you up like this. This is his crime, not yours, not mine, and Xia Shui. Why do we have to hide? Not only will I not hide, but I will also seek justice for you. The more Charlotte said, the more excited he became. Leicester, you listen to me, Ma Xiaoan said anxiously. Forget it, forget it. I'm fine. You don't have to worry about this. You can focus on your treatment here. Charlotte said. At this time, a nurse came in. She looked at Charlotte and said, Are you the family member of Bed 19? Can you pay the medical expenses that you owe? Otherwise, the pharmacy won't give you medicine. How much do you owe? Charlotte didn't have to ask to know that Chen Chuanhu didn't even pay a penny for the medical expenses. I owe 1,200 yuan, but the follow-up treatment still needs medicine. I suggest you pay a little more. It's best to pay 7,000 yuan. The nurse said, Money. I will find a way. Leicester, you don't have to worry about it. Ma Xiaoan was in pain. I will pay 8,000 yuan. You take care of my friend. As Charlotte said this, he took the bed card to pay. Ma Xiaoan's eyes suddenly became wet. Leicester, don't. That's the money you paid for Xia Shui's tuition. Charlotte had already gone out the door. He didn't even look back. Chapter 5. It was already late at night when he left the hospital. Charlotte returned home. As soon as he stepped into the living room, his sister, Xia Shui, came out of her room. Xia Shui was 18 years old this year. Her appearance was somewhat similar to Charlotte's. She was 170 centimeters tall, with long legs. She was slim and graceful. She was a lovable girl. Brother, what have you been busy with these 2 days? When I called you in the afternoon, your cell phone was turned off. I couldn't find your construction site. I was so worried. Xia Shui scolded her brother, but every word she said was mixed with concern for Charlotte. Charlotte smiled a little. It's so late, and you haven't slept yet. Are you waiting for me? Of course. If you don't come back, how can I sleep peacefully? Xia Shui pouted her mouth slightly. Charlotte was her only relative in this world and her only reliance. How could she not care about him? It's nothing. Construction site, overtime. Charlotte said, Sit down. Brother wants to tell you something. What's the matter? Xia Shui sat next to Charlotte and looked at her brother curiously. Charlotte took out his wallet and put a bank card in Xia Shui's hand. There are 30,000 yuan in this card. You can use it to pay for your tuition. 30,000 yuan? Xia Shui was suddenly taken aback. Brother, where did you get so much money? Did you do something bad? Charlotte pretended to be serious. What are you talking about, girl? Is your brother the kind of person who does bad things? This is the case. I happened to save a person today. That person was very generous and gave me 50,000 yuan as a reward. I thought our mother was blessing us. You just take it and don't think too much. Brother, who did you save? Xia Shui was very smart. Although Charlotte's explanation was very reasonable, she wouldn't believe it easily. Charlotte knew that his sister was hard to deal with. He had already prepared it. He took out the business card that Long Bing gave him and handed it to Xia Shui. Here, this is her business card. And she is from the capital. If you have any trouble over there, you can call her. Only then did Xia Shui believe Charlotte's words. She breathed a sigh of relief and then giggled. Brother, it's a woman. Is she beautiful? The image of Long Bing's cold and elegant face appeared in Charlotte's mind. He said casually, beautiful, very beautiful. Oh, you're praising him just like that? He even left you his number. That's a hint. Xia Shui said with a smile. Brother, you're not young anymore. You should be more proactive. Ask her out for tea, watch a movie, in exchange for sister-in-law. Exchange my ass. Don't make fun of me, your brother. Charlotte continued to keep a straight face. Also, you should stay in school for the next few days. Don't come back. Why? Xia Shui wasn't willing. Charlotte said that. Xia Shui laughed and said, I understand. You want to ask my future sister-in-law to go home. You don't want me to be a third wheel at home, right? Okay, I understand. I will stay in the dormitory with my classmates tomorrow. Charlotte didn't know how to coax her, but she took the initiative to convince herself. This saved him a lot of trouble. Chen Chuanhu wouldn't let him go, and he wouldn't let Chen Chuanhu go either. Letting Xia Shui stay at school for the next few days was also a safety guarantee. Brother, you haven't eaten yet, right? I'll cook a bowl of noodles for you. Xia Shui began to care about her brother's stomach again. When Xia Shui said this, Charlotte's stomach suddenly made a grumbling sound. After coming back from Macau, he knew that he hadn't even drunk a mouthful of water. He was actually hungry. Forget it. Pretend that I didn't ask. I'm going to cook noodles for you. Xia Shui got up and went to the kitchen. Charlotte lay on the sofa and completely relaxed. His eyes moved to a family photo on the TV cabinet. In the family photo, there were his mother, his father, and he and his sister. The family's faces were close to each other. Every face showed a happy smile. Dad, where did you go? Do you know how I've been living these past few years? Xia Lei whispered these words in his heart. After eating noodles, Charlotte went back to his room to rest. He had been using his X-ray vision ability continuously all day. He was already exhausted. He fell asleep as soon as he went to bed. He slept until the afternoon of the next day. He didn't even know when Xia Shui left. There was a bowl of porridge and a plate of fried vegetables on the table. There was a glass bottle and a note under the glass bottle. There was a white capsule in the glass bottle. Seeing it, Charlotte suddenly thought of his father, Xia Changhe. Charlotte still clearly remembered that 5 years ago, a year before his father disappeared, his body was very weak. He didn't know where his father found a bottle of medicine. There were only 12 white capsules in this bottle. His father let him take one every month. The effect of this medicine was very good. After he took the first one, his physical condition was much better. Later, when he took the 11th pill, his father disappeared. He didn't know where the remaining pill went. Now, this bottle of medicine appeared in front of Charlotte again. The 12th pill was also lying quietly in the glass bottle. Charlotte picked up the note under the glass bottle. Xia Shui's message was written on the note. Brother, when I cleaned Dad and Mom's room in the morning, I found this medicine bottle and the medicine that you didn't finish. But you're strong now. You probably don't need to take this medicine anymore. It is something that Dad left for you. You keep it as a souvenir. This girl, she's so good. I don't know which guy will be lucky enough to marry her in the future. As her brother, I must keep a good eye on her. Charlotte smiled. He put the note and the medicine behind the family photo frame on the TV cabinet and then returned to the table to eat his breakfast and lunch. After eating, Charlotte went out. Downstairs, Charlotte saw Jiang Rui, who was in a daze on the balcony. His heart moved, and he walked over. Jiang Rui didn't see Charlotte at all. She held her cheek and looked at the cup on the table. He didn't know if she was thinking about some delicious food or a handsome man. Robbery! A fierce voice suddenly came. Jiang Rui was shocked. When she looked up, she saw Charlotte standing outside the fence. She glared and said, "Do you want to die? Why are you scaring me?" Then she reached out to hit Charlotte, but Charlotte dodged. "Rui, I want to ask you something," Charlotte said. "What is it?" Jiang Rui said. "It's like this. You work in the police station. Do you know a person named Li Qinghua? He is our chief. How come I don't know him?" Jiang Rui stared at Charlotte and probed. "Why are you looking for our chief?" Charlotte said, "I have something to talk to him about." "Well, can you tell me where he lives and what his cell phone number is?" Jiang Rui interrupted Charlotte's words. "Why are you asking this?" Charlotte said with a smile. "Do you think I want to do something bad? Even if I do something bad, I won't be stupid enough to go to the police, right? It's a friend of mine who has something to do. He wants to find some connections. You know, in this world, you have to find some connections. So that's how it is." Jiang Rui took out her cell phone from her pocket. She opened the contact window, then leaned against the stainless steel fence and handed the phone to Charlotte. Charlotte saw a photo of Li Qinghua, his cell phone number, and his home address. He memorized these contents, then returned the phone to Jiang Rui and said, "Thank you." Jiang Rui put away the phone and smiled. "No need to thank me. It's tacky. You can just call me sister." Her smile was very charming. Charlotte, who was about to leave, couldn't help but look at her again. Then his eyes inadvertently fell on her waist and buttocks. His desire to see through things uncontrollably emerged. Jiang Rui's uniform skirt and t-shirt suddenly turned into a thin gauze that was almost negligible. Then it disappeared. The secret scenery of Jiang Rui's body was exposed to his sight. Her breasts, her buttocks, and her long legs were white and tender. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and his breathing became rapid. "I really shouldn't have done that." Xiaolei shook his head with all his might and gave himself a light slap on the face. Only then did he get rid of the bad thoughts in his head. "What are you doing?" Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte curiously. Nothing." Charlotte was embarrassed to death, but he also had an idea in his panic. He said, "It's a mosquito. I'm hitting a mosquito." At this moment, a mosquito really perched on Jiang Rui's small waist. It was unknown whether it was to prove that his lie was true, or because he didn't want Jiang Rui to be bitten by a mosquito. Charlotte waved his hand and patted Jiang Rui's small waist. With a crisp sound, the small waist trembled slightly, and the plump area also trembled slightly. Jiang Rui was stunned all of a sudden, and her face turned red. She looked at Charlotte, and her small mouth opened. She couldn't say a word for a long time. Charlotte handed the hand that hit the mosquito to Jiang Rui. He opened his palm and revealed a flattened mosquito. Jiang Rui glared at Charlotte in embarrassment. Charlotte explained a little clumsily, "Mosquito, mosquito. It's okay. It's dead." But at this moment, another mosquito flew in front of Jiang Rui's eyes and slowly flew to her buttocks and perched. Jiang Rui looked at the mosquito perched on her buttocks and looked at Charlotte. She didn't speak, but her slightly fierce eyes seemed to be sending a signal. "Don't you like to hit mosquitoes? Another one is coming. Do you dare to hit it? If you dare to hit it, I will crush you to death." Charlotte raised his hand, but in the end, he didn't put it down. He just waved it to scare away the mosquito. He could still hit the mosquito on the waist, but he didn't dare to hit the mosquito on the buttocks. That place was really too sensitive. But it was true. He was a man hitting a woman's buttocks. What was the relationship? "Okay, I'm leaving. See you later." Charlotte didn't dare to stay any longer and was ready to leave. Jiang Rui said, "Director Li likes to drink tea at Jeshan Garden Tea House. He likes to drink Taiwan's frozen top oolong tea. You tell your friend that if he asks Director Li to do something, it's best to buy some good oolong tea. Today is the weekend. You ask your friend to go there to find him. He will definitely find it. And I will remember." Charlotte waved his hand and left. "You haven't called me sister yet. Do you want to be shameless?" Jiang Rui's voice came from behind. "Sister." Charlotte smiled bitterly and quickened his pace. Remember, oolong tea. It was still Jiang Rui's voice. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, Oolong tea? Li Qinghua. That scum. I should treat him to urine. Chapter 6. The sky was not completely dark yet, but the Kindness Garden Tea House, which was located next to a high-class district, was already lit up. The lanterns were ancient palace lanterns, and combined with the antique style of the courtyard, it looked like an ancient royal residence under the night sky, exuding an oppressive aura of nobility. This kind of place was not a place for ordinary people to spend their money. A taxi stopped by the roadside, and the door opened. Charlotte, who was wearing a well-ironed suit, alighted from the taxi. With a height of 8 meters, a well-built body, and a bright and handsome face, he looked like an elite in the workplace, with an extraordinary temperament. Charlotte walked through the main entrance of the Kindness Garden. After entering the tea house, Charlotte asked for a cup of the cheaper falling snow and sat down at a tea table that was slightly more secluded. There were many people drinking tea in the tea house. Some sat in the main hall, while others sat in the private rooms. It was very lively. Charlotte observed carefully, but did not see Li Qinghua. He then used the X-ray vision ability of his left eye and began to search for Li Qinghua in the private room beside the main hall. The private room had wooden walls, and the door was also covered with bamboo curtains that did not let light in. Under normal circumstances, one would not be able to see what was going on in the private room, but for Charlotte, the walls and bamboo curtains of the private room did not exist. With his X-ray vision, he could see what was going on in each private room. A minute later, his gaze stopped at the orchid hall not far from him. There was a man and a woman in the orchid hall. The man looked to be in his 40s and was slightly plump. His mannerisms and speech had an easily recognizable official air. The woman looked to be in her late 20s, and her figure and appearance were not bad. She could be considered a beauty. Charlotte quickly recognized that the man was Li Qinghua, but he did not know who the woman was. The woman looked very nervous, and her mannerisms were also very restrained. It gave off the feeling that she was not willing to drink tea with Li Qinghua. Compared to the woman's restraint, Li Qinghua was much more relaxed. He also had a smile on his face, and his eyes wandered around the woman's chest, waist, and butt, not concealing his desire. At this moment, Li Qinghua reached out to grab the woman's hand and gently stroked it before saying something. The woman blushed and lowered her head, not daring to look at Li Qinghua's eyes. Charlotte couldn't hear the conversation between Li Qinghua and the woman, but he had his own judgment. In this case, Li Qinghua must have used his position as the bureau chief to bring a subordinate or a woman here to take advantage of him. If that's the case, this is a good opportunity. Xiaolei already had an idea in his mind. A few minutes later, the bamboo curtain of the orchid hall was suddenly lifted and Li Qinghua walked out with the woman. The woman had been silently following behind Li Qinghua. Most of the time, she lowered her head, not daring to look at others, and also avoided other people's gazes. Charlotte also left the tea table and walked towards the cashier. After paying the bill, he quickly left the tea house. Under the streetlight, Li Qinghua held the woman's slender waist and walked along the sidewalk to the west. Li Qinghua didn't even notice that Charlotte was following behind him. His hands were unscrupulously caressing the woman's waist and buttocks while saying flirtatious words. The woman was bashful and allowed Li Qinghua's perverted hands to grope her body. A few minutes later, Li Qinghua and the woman entered a hotel and got a room. As soon as they entered the room, Li Qinghua couldn't help but hug the woman, kissing and touching her body. Bureau Chief Li, don't worry. I'll take a shower, and then I'll serve you well. Okay? The woman said coquettishly. Li Qinghua laughed. Good girl. Don't worry. I'll settle your husband's matter for you. Isn't it just a change of position? It's a small matter. You're so nice. The woman leaned over and kissed Li Qinghua, then took off her clothes and walked to the bathroom. Li Qinghua also took off his clothes and laid on the bed naked. He lit a cigarette and waited contentedly for the clean woman to serve him. He didn't notice that there was a young man standing outside the door, and that young man was staring at the door of the room. For Charlotte, the door didn't exist at all. Not only did he see Li Qinghua lying on the bed in the room, but he also saw the situation in the bathroom. The glass door of the bathroom wasn't closed properly, and there was a 1-foot wide gap. Through that gap, he could see a white woman bathing. The water splashed on her head, flowed along her skin, flowed over her small waist, flowed over her buttocks, and then along her legs to stay on the floor. It was very seductive. Seeing this, Charlotte closed his eyes. This time, he didn't hallucinate when he used his X-ray vision. He also learned some rules. As long as he didn't use his X-ray vision continuously at a certain time and didn't consume too much of his physical and mental energy, he wouldn't hallucinate. Li Qinghua was waiting, and so was Charlotte. A few minutes later, the woman came out of the bathroom. Her body was wrapped in a bath towel. Her white and tender skin, full curves, and with the bath towel covering half of her body, she immediately aroused Li Qinghua's desire. "Baby, I really can't help it." Li Qinghua couldn't wait to jump out of the bed. He tore off the woman's bath towel, threw her on the bed, and then pounced on her like a wolf bang. With a muffled sound, the door was suddenly knocked open. Charlotte rushed into the room with his mobile phone. The mobile phone's camera app was open, and the mobile phone screen also showed the picture of Li Qinghua and the woman together. It was so clear that it made people blush. The woman saw Charlotte first, and she screamed, "Ah, there's someone!" Li Qinghua suddenly turned back to look at Charlotte, who suddenly broke into the room. He was stunned for a moment, and suddenly roared, "Who are you? Who let you in? Don't take pictures." Charlotte wasn't afraid of Li Qinghua's roar at all. He continued to maintain the position of shooting the video. At this time, Li Qinghua and the woman were still in the position of the nut and the screw. F***CK. Do you know who I am? Li Qinghua jumped out of the bed and rushed up to grab the mobile phone from Charlotte's hand. At this time, he was actually panicking and afraid. Before Li Qinghua could touch him, Charlotte raised his foot and kicked Li Qinghua's lower abdomen. "Ah!" Li Qinghua screamed and fell hard to the ground. The woman on the bed hurriedly grabbed the phone on the bedside table. She seemed to want to call the police, but after she pressed twice, she couldn't press it anymore. The reason why she gave up on calling the police was very simple. Li Qinghua was the police chief, and the other party even dared to kick the police chief to the ground. If she called the police, wouldn't she be shooting herself in the foot? At this time, Charlotte turned off the camera function of the mobile phone and put the mobile phone in his trouser pocket. He had already gotten what he wanted, and there was not much point in continuing to take pictures. "You?" Li Qinghua finally recovered. He looked at Charlotte nervously. "Who are you? What do you want?" Charlotte moved a chair and sat opposite the woman, Li Qinghua. He said slowly, "You just asked me if I know who you are. Now I'm going to answer your question. I know who you are. You are Li Qinghua, the police chief of the Beigong District Police Station in Haizhu City. Am I right?" Li Qinghua didn't admit or deny it. He looked at Charlotte with hatred, guessing Charlotte's motives. Charlotte said, "I was forced to come here by you. You forced me to do this." "You." Suddenly seeing the anger in Charlotte's eyes, Li Qinghua swallowed the word fart and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't even know you. Why would I force you? Give me your mobile phone, and we can discuss everything. I can also pretend that this never happened." Charlotte sneered. "Li Qinghua, I think you probably don't understand the situation. Now the anti-corruption efforts are very strict. If I hand over this video to the prosecution or the media, can you imagine what will happen to you? You name a price." Li Qinghua tried to hide the panic in his heart. Charlotte said, "I don't want your money. I just want justice." "Justice?" Li Qinghua looked at Charlotte suspiciously. "What justice? You have a good nephew named Chun Chuanhu. I worked at his construction site. The electric arc burned my eyes. He paid 10,000 yuan for the medical expenses, but the treatment cost 200,000 yuan. The doctor also said that there was a 90% chance that my eyes would go blind. Aren't your eyes fine? I'm lucky. My eyes aren't blind, but my vision is less than 1/3 of what it used to be." Charlotte looked straight at Li Qinghua. "Do you think 10,000 yuan is enough?" Li Qinghua was cooperative. He shook his head. "Not enough. Not enough." The corner of Xia Lei's mouth revealed a hint of a smile. "Actually, I didn't want to cause trouble for Chinchuanhu. I paid the bill myself and left the hospital. There was still 9,000 yuan left from the medical fees he gave me, and I kept it as the medical fees for the follow-up treatment. But your good nephew brought people to me and said that he want me to compensate for his electric welding machine and transformer. Don't you think he is too much? Li Qinghua nodded again. Too much, too much. Charlotte said again. I'm glad that I left the hospital early. He didn't find me, but he seriously injured my friend. He is still lying in the hospital. I paid 8,000 yuan for his hospitalization. How do you think we should deal with this? Li Qinghua was an old fox. He didn't express his opinion on the key issues. That's it. Director Li, how do you think we should deal with this? Charlotte said. Li Qinghua thought for a moment. I'll get someone to arrest him. You don't have to return the 9,000 yuan to him. You don't have to compensate for the electric welding machine and transformer. As for the 8,000 yuan for your friend's medical expenses, I'll be generous. I'll pay 10,000 yuan myself. What do you think? Charlotte shook his head. No. Li Qinghua's eyes flashed with anger, but he hid it well. He still had a smile on his face. Little brother, tell me, how do you want to solve this? Chapter 7. Charlotte said, I can forget about my eyes. If I don't look for him, he won't look for me either. But my friend was seriously injured. I can't just let it go. I want Chen Chuanhu to kneel and apologize to my friend. Let it go to the hospital and kneel now. Let him take a photo and send it to me. In addition, my friend's nutrition fee, mental damage fee, loss of working time, and medical fee, a total of 50,000 yuan. Let your nephew prepare 50,000 yuan and bring it to the hospital. If you do it, the matter between us will be over. Li Qinghua sneered. Little brother, you are still young. There are many things in society that you don't understand. I advise you, don't be too ruthless. Leave some leeway in everything. Leave some leeway in life. You should have heard of this saying, right? Yes, but I don't want to see you. Charlotte said, if you don't want to, I will upload the video I just took to the forum now. Don't. Li Qinghua suddenly became nervous. How about this? Little brother, the money is no problem, but can you exempt him for kneeling? Tianyi is also a famous person. If you ask him to kneel in the hospital and take a photo for you, it will be difficult for him. I'd better upload it to the forum. While playing with the phone, Charlotte added, well, call the anti-corruption hotline tomorrow. Motherf ***. Li Qinghua swallowed the swear words that were about to come out of his mouth. He climbed up from the ground. Little brother, don't be impulsive. I will call that bastard now. I will ask him to bring 50,000 yuan and let him kneel in front of your friend. Let him take a photo for you. Are you satisfied now? Li Qinghua's voice was mixed with hatred, but Charlotte didn't care at all. He knew very well that even if he didn't let Chen Chuanhu kneel in front of Ma Xiaoan, or even didn't want the 50,000 yuan medical fee, Li Qinghua wouldn't let him go afterward. The reason was very simple. Li Qinghua was a vengeful person. He certainly wouldn't tolerate someone taking advantage of him. Xiaolei wasn't a fool either. When Li Qinghua went to take out her phone to call Chen Chuanhu, he quickly changed the interface of his phone and uploaded the video he shot to his Baidu cloud drive. With such a backup in his hands, he was not afraid of Li Qinghua's revenge. Li Qinghua called Chen Chuanhu. Charlotte said, put it on speaker. Li Qinghua turned around and glanced at Charlotte. His eyes were filled with anger, but he still did as he was told. Chen Chuanhu's voice came from the phone. Who is it? If you have something to say, say it. I'm your uncle. Bastard. Li Qinghua was infuriated and started cursing. Ah, uncle, it's you. I was driving and didn't see the caller ID. Uncle, what's the matter? Chen Chuanhu's tone suddenly changed 180 degrees. Let me ask you, did a worker at your construction site get injured by an electric arc? Yes, uncle. Why are you asking about such a trivial matter? Chen Chuanhu's voice came. That kid is called Charlotte. He's just an idiot. Did he run to you to report me? If it was a report, then it would be great. Report your head. Li Qinghua vented his anger on Chen Chuanhu. Let me ask you again. Did you injure his friend? Is that person still in the hospital? Uncle, I say, what's wrong with you today? You never cared about these trivial matters before. Bastard. I asked you if you did or didn't you. Yes. Chen Chuanhu seemed to have felt Li Qinghua's anger and realized that something was wrong. I'll give you 20 minutes. Bring 50,000 yuan to the hospital and kneel to apologize. Uncle, this. Chen Chuanhu was obviously unwilling. If you want to continue mingling, then do as I say. Li Qinghua's tone was threatening. Also, take a picture of him kneeling to apologize and send it to me. I want to see. The other side of the phone was silent for almost 10 seconds before Chen Chuanhu's voice was heard. Uncle, did I offend some big shot son? Did that kid deliberately come to my construction site to experience life? Experience your head. Go. 20 minutes. Li Qinghua shouted at the phone. I'm going now. I'm going now. Chen Chuanhu hung up the phone. Li Qinghua turned to look at Charlotte and then extended his hand to Charlotte. Are you satisfied now? Give me the phone. Xiao Lei smiled. Director Li, I don't trust you. Let's wait for your nephew to finish what he's supposed to do. You have to think about what you're doing. Li Qinghua had never been bullied like this before, and Charlotte was the first person who dared to pull his whiskers. Charlotte faintly shrugged. I think you should put on your clothes first. I'm not used to you being naked. Li Qinghua looked at Charlotte coldly. His eyes were especially cold, like the eyes of a snake in a state of predation. The woman hid under the quilt with a complicated expression on her face. 20 minutes later, Chen Chuanhu's phone rang, and he picked up the phone. This time, without waiting for Charlotte to remind him, Chen Chuanhu turned on the speaker. Uncle, I'm already in the hospital, and the 50,000 yuan has been given to that kid's friend, but Chen Chuanhu tentatively said, Uncle, do I really have to kneel down and apologize? Do you think I'm joking with you? Li Qinghua shouted at the phone. Do as I say. Okay, Damn, I'll kneel. Chen Chuanhu reluctantly kneeled down, and then his voice of apology to Ma Xiaoan came through the phone. Brother, Chen Chuanhu was blind. Please forgive me for offending you. This is the 50,000 yuan medical fee. Please accept it. Ma Xiaoan's voice faintly came through the phone. Although he was in the hospital ward, Charlotte could also guess Ma Xiaoan's reaction. Ma Xiaoan must be surprised at the moment and couldn't believe what had happened in front of him. A minute later, Li Qinghua's phone received a multimedia message. This is what you want. Take a look. Are you satisfied? Li Qinghua handed the phone to Charlotte. On the screen of the phone, Chen Chuanhu was kneeling by the hospital bed, and Ma Xiao was lying on the hospital bed. There were 5 stacks of coins beside his pillow, which was exactly 50,000 yuan. Ma Xiao's expression was very strange. He was surprised and happy, but he still endured it and didn't dare to show it. Chen Chuanhu's expression was also very interesting. He was very unwilling and angry, but he still wanted to kneel. Charlotte smiled. Okay, this matter ends here. Give me your phone, Li Qinghua said coldly. Okay. Charlotte shrugged and gave the phone to Li Qinghua. Li Qinghua deleted the video that Charlotte had just taken, and this was not enough. After deleting the video, he smashed the phone on the ground and stomped on it. Charlotte's phone was trampled into a pile of debris, and he couldn't restore the data on the memory card. Charlotte walked over. Li Qinghua subconsciously took a step back. What are you trying to do? Charlotte bent down and picked up a SIM card, then smiled. Don't be nervous. I just want to get my card back. I will forget about you damaging my phone. Goodbye, Chief Li. Kid, you have guts. Let's wait and see. Li Qinghua said. Charlotte, who was walking to the door, turned around and sneered. Chief Li, if you want to take revenge on me, I advise you to give up this idea. I can mess with you once, and I can mess with you again. You can pass the first time, but it won't be so easy the second time. I will mess with you. Li Qinghua looked at Charlotte with a blank expression. It wasn't until Charlotte opened the door and left that Li Qinghua said, You dare to mess with me? Kid, you are finished. If I don't mess with you, my surname is not Li. Li Qinghua picked up his phone and dialed a number. Walking out of the hotel, the anger in his heart and the grievances he suffered disappeared, and Charlotte felt relaxed. An hour later, Charlotte came to Ma Xiaoan's ward. He was holding a phone box in his hand. When he came back from Macau, he wanted to buy Ma Xiaoan an iPhone 6 Plus, and now he fulfilled it. When Ma Xiaoan saw Charlotte, he suddenly became excited. Lay, do you know? Charlotte smiled and interrupted him. I know. Did you enjoy it? Yes. Ma Xiaoan said with a smile. We didn't see Chuan Hu kneeling in front of me to apologize. Wait, did you do this? Charlotte patted Ma Xiaoan's shoulder. Don't ask. It's enough that you know the result. This is the phone I bought for you. Look, Tyrant Jean, haven't you always wanted one? It's yours. Ma Xiaoan noticed the apple box in Charlotte's hand. He was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head and said, Are you crazy? Your sister's tuition hasn't been paid yet. Why did you buy me a phone? I was just about to call you and ask you to come and get the money. Right? I will keep 20,000 yuan of the 50,000 yuan. You take 30,000 yuan to pay for Xia Shui's tuition. After that, he picked up 3 bundles of coins from the pillow and put them in Charlotte's hand. Charlotte pressed his hand and said with a smile, If I don't have money, can I buy you a phone? I not only bought it for you, but I also bought it for myself. He took out a brand new Xiaomi 4 and shook it in front of Ma Xiaoan. See, I have one too. I don't like Apple phones. It's troublesome to use. Otherwise, I would have bought one myself. Ma Xiaoan was dumbfounded. He was stunned for a long time before he said, Lei, how did you suddenly have money? Charlotte smiled and said, You don't have to worry about this. You take care of your injury. You keep the money and buy whatever you want. I have already paid my sister's tuition. You don't have to worry about it. You robbed them? Ma Xiao, and stared at Xia Lei with his eyes wide open. Charlotte slapped Ma Xiaoan's head. What nonsense are you talking about? Ouch. Ma Xiaoan was in pain, but he was very happy in his heart. At this time, Charlotte's cell phone suddenly rang. Charlotte looked at the screen, but the caller ID was unknown number. He hung up the phone after it rang for the 3rd time. Who called? Why didn't you answer the phone? Ma Xiaoan asked. Charlotte said, Unknown number. It's probably a call to sell insurance. I'm too lazy to answer it. Well, it's late. I'll go back first. I'll see you tomorrow. Lei, I can't take this phone. You take it back to Xia Shui. Ma Xiaoan said. Charlotte glared at him. Do you want to be hit again? Ma Xiaoan suddenly closed his mouth, but he secretly said in his heart, When I get out of the hospital, I will buy an Apple laptop for Xia Shui and let her take it to Kyoto University. Oomph. Chapter 8. As he walked out of the hospital gate, a police car drove towards him. Seeing the police, Charlotte's heart sank slightly, but he quickly denied the idea in his heart. Even if Li Qinghua wants to take revenge on me, it won't be so fast, right? This is probably a patrol police car. The police car drove quickly, passed by Charlotte, and stopped at the gate of the hospital. Sure enough, it wasn't sent by Li Qinghua. Charlotte thought so in his heart, and then he walked to the side of the road. At this moment, the police car suddenly stepped on the gas and reversed. A policeman stuck his head out of the window and shouted loudly, Stop! Charlotte stopped, and he shouted in his heart, Oh no, it's him. The policeman who stuck his head out of the window looked at the printed portrait in his hand and looked very excited. Charlotte. Chief Li wants to arrest him. The police car stopped next to Charlotte. The door opened, and 4 policemen got out of the car. As soon as they got out, they surrounded Charlotte. At this time, Charlotte's heart calmed down, and he said unhurriedly, What do you want? Are you Charlotte? The leading policeman asked. Charlotte nodded. I am Charlotte. Why are you looking for me? Why are we looking for you? The leading policeman showed an arrest warrant and sneered. Charlotte, you are suspected of extortion. This is the arrest warrant. Come with us. Charlotte said, Are you mistaken? Who did I extort? The leading policeman slapped the back of Charlotte's head and said fiercely, You know who you extorted? You really have the guts of a leopard. You actually have a crooked idea on our chief. Wash your ass and wait to go to jail. You will suffer in the future. Take him away. Charlotte was so angry that he laughed. Arrest me? Tell him that he better not regret it. Boy, you are still stubborn. Cuff him, the leading policeman said. A policeman then took out his handcuffs and handcuffed Charlotte. Then he pushed Charlotte into the police car. Charlotte did not resist and got into the police car. Half an hour later, Charlotte was taken to the Beigong District Police Station and locked in an interrogation room. His phone, wallet, and other belongings were all taken away. A young police officer came in, slammed the notebook in his hand on the table, and then sat opposite Charlotte. "Tell us the truth and save us the trouble." Charlotte didn't panic at all. He said indifferently, "What do you want me to explain? You know it very well. Of course, it's to confess that you blackmailed our director, Lee." The young police officer slammed the table. "You'd better behave yourself." "All right, I'll explain," Charlotte said. "This evening, I met Director Lee Ching-hua at the Jushan Garden Tea House. He took a woman with him, and then went to the hotel to get a room." "What nonsense are you talking about?" The young police officer interrupted Charlotte's words. "If you talk nonsense again, I won't be polite to you. I also want to remind you that this is a false accusation, which is also against the law. Do you want to add to your crime?" Charlotte shrugged. "Didn't you ask me to say it? I'm telling the truth." At this time, the young police officer turned his head and looked at the window, then pointed to the camera in the corner. He didn't speak, but his intention was obvious. He wanted the people outside to turn off the camera. Sure enough, the camera's indicator light was on. After he made a gesture, the indicator light went off. This young police officer was obviously Lee Ching-hua's man. Charlotte moved his eyes to his chest. He saw the young police officer's work card and the name on it. His name was Hu Bin. Charlotte moved his eyes to a glass wall in the interrogation room. This glass wall was very one-way transparent. The people outside could see inside, but the people inside could not see outside. However, this was not an obstacle for him at all. He saw Lee Ching-hua with his left eye and Chen Chuanhu standing next to Lee Ching-hua. Lee Ching-hua and Chen Chuanhu talked in a low voice. Chen Chuanhu kept nodding, with a look of obedience. It was not difficult to see that Lee Ching-hua was telling Chen Chuanhu how to frame him in Ma Xiaoan. Charlotte withdrew his gaze, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. He originally planned to let this matter go, but he didn't expect Lee Ching-hua to be so vengeful. He sent people to arrest him that night. At this time, he was also secretly glad that he had secretly uploaded the video to his Baidu cloud disk in the hotel. With the video in hand, he was not flustered or afraid at all. "I'll let you be proud for a while," Charlotte secretly said in his heart. The policeman named Hu Bin said at this time, "Let's start. Tell me, how much did you get from the 50,000 yuan you extorted?" Charlotte said, "Let me correct you. That's not extortion. That's the total amount of medical expenses, lost working time, nutrition expenses, mental damage expenses, and other expenses. I didn't take a penny. My friend was injured by Chen Chuanhu. Shouldn't this money be paid by Chen Chuanhu? Medical expenses?" Hu Bin snorted coldly. "Save this for when you go to court. If the judge believes you, I will write the Hu word upside down. The situation we have is that you extorted Chen Chuanhu. Oh, yes, your eyes were not injured, but you used the injury to extort 10,000 yuan from Chen Chuanhu. Do you admit it?" Charlotte yawned. "I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. You can write whatever you want. Anyway, you won't believe what I say. You will always write my statement according to your director, Lee's instructions. So why should we waste time?" "Oh, you're really awesome. So, you admit that you extorted? Do you have any evidence?" Motherf asterisk Kerr. Hu Bin stood up angrily and raised his hand, ready to slap Charlotte. Charlotte didn't even have the intention to dodge. He had the video in his hand, so he wasn't afraid of Hu Bin. At this time, Hu Bin's police communication device suddenly rang. Hu Bin put down his raised hand. He took out the police communicator and pressed the answer button. Lee Ching-hua's voice came through the speaker. "Let's lock him up for the night. We'll give him a formal statement tomorrow. This time, even God won't be able to save him." "Okay, Director Lee, I will take this kid to the detention room." Hu Bin's tone was full of flattery. Charlotte was taken to the detention room and locked up. There was a bed in the detention room, but there was no bedding. The floor and walls were dirty. The air was filled with a faint urine smell, which made Charlotte frown. In such an environment, Charlotte couldn't sleep at all. He first thought about how to deal with Lee Ching-hua. Then he began to practice the ability of his left eye. Practice makes perfect. This old saying also applied to his magical left eye. After one night of exploration and practice, Charlotte discovered that the X-ray ability of his left eye was not simple at all. Through control, he could turn the X-ray ability into the ability to see far away. Just like the time in Macau, he saw the sniper on the rooftop of the opposite building, but Long Bing couldn't see it. Through control, he could also turn this X-ray ability into a microscopic ability. He could see subtle things that were usually invisible to the naked eye, such as the dust suspended in the air. He was so excited by these discoveries that he practiced until he was exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, Charlotte had his first visitor, Jiang Rui. Jiang Rui was wearing a summer uniform, which accentuated her figure. Her waist was soft and slender, her buttocks were perky, and her breasts were plump and plump. Her sexiness was visible at a glance, and it was very pleasing to the eye. When he saw her for the first time, Charlotte almost couldn't help but want to awaken the X-ray ability of his left eye and feast on her beauty. However, he didn't do so in the end. He suppressed the evil thoughts. Last night's practice was fruitful. He could now control his X-ray ability more freely. You, what do you want me to say about you? Jiang Rui said angrily. I asked you yesterday. You said that one of your friends wanted to find some connections, so I told you where Director Lee was. I didn't expect you to blackmail Director Lee. I really misjudged you. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Is this how you look at me? It's not how I look at you, but you did something illegal. The more Jiang Rui said, the angrier she got. Have you ever thought about what will happen to Xia Shui after you go to jail? Of course I've thought about it, so I won't do anything illegal. Charlotte said, Rui, let me ask you, have you ever seen me do anything bad since I was a child? Jiang Rui shook her head. In her impression, Charlotte was not such a person. Charlotte said again, think about it again. Am I a stupid person? Jiang Rui said, what do you mean? Charlotte said, I mean, since I am not a bad person, and I am not a stupid person, will I be stupid enough to blackmail a police chief? There are many millionaires in Haizhu City. If I want to make money in this way, why don't I choose those rich people? Why would I choose a police chief as a target? Jiang Rui was silent for a moment and said, I just can't understand this, so I came to see you. Can you tell me what's going on? Tell me. If you didn't do anything illegal, I will help you. Charlotte told her that he was injured at the construction site and that Chen Chuanhu injured Ma Xiaoan. Finally, he talked about him looking for Li Qinghua, and Li Qinghua asked Chen Chuanhu to give Ma Xiaoan 50,000 yuan and apologize. Wait, Jiang Rui suddenly reacted. You asked me for Director Li's phone number and address yesterday. Did you actually want to talk to him? Charlotte nodded. You talked to him, and he asked Chen Chuanhu to give your friend 50,000 yuan? Charlotte nodded again. You didn't threaten him? Jiang Rui didn't believe it. Charlotte said, when I looked for him, he was having sex with a woman, and I happened to take pictures. I'm going to faint. Jiang Rui's expression was exaggerated. Charlotte said again, that woman seems to be the wife of one of your colleagues. She asked Li Qinghua to change her position or something. I'm going to faint. Jiang Rui leaned in front of the fence with a flattering smile on her face. Do you still have the video? Let me see it. Charlotte said, lend me your phone. I'll make a call, and then I'll tell you where to see the video. Jiang Rui looked around to make sure no one was coming. Then she took out her phone and handed it to Charlotte. She said, where is the video? It's on Baidu Cloud Drive. The account number is the pinyin of my name, and the password is my birthday. That thing is very important. Don't delete it for me, Charlotte said, and then dialed a number. Chapter 9. Who are you calling? Xia Shui or Ma Xiaoan? Jiang Rui was very curious about who Charlotte would call at this time. A friend. You don't know him. Don't ask. Charlotte said as he waited for the phone to be connected. There was no ringtone. The phone was connected after 5 seconds. Hello? Who are you? A woman's voice came from a phone. It was cold, full of probing and vigilance. It's me, Charlotte. Charlotte said, do you still remember me? Of course I remember. I called you last night, but you didn't answer. Charlotte then remembered that he received a call from an unknown number when he was in the hospital yesterday. At that time, he thought it was an insurance salesman, so he didn't answer. He didn't expect that it was Long Bing who called him. He said, sorry, I didn't know it was you, so I didn't answer. Long Bing said. Why are you calling me with someone else's phone at this time? It's like this. Charlotte hesitated. I'm in a bit of trouble. I don't know if you can help. Where are you? Haiju City Bagong District Police Station. Wait for me. 15 minutes. After that, Long Bing hung up the phone. Charlotte still maintained the posture of talking on the phone. He didn't come back to his senses for a long time. He thought that Long Bing would ask him what kind of trouble he was in, but she didn't even ask. She just asked where he was and came. This seemed to mean that no matter what kind of trouble it wasn't trouble in her eyes. Charlotte called Long Bing on the spur of the moment. Jiang Rui's appearance reminded him of her. Long Bing's reaction in the shooting, her calmness weren't something an ordinary woman could do. More importantly, she wasn't afraid of the police. When the police came, she asked him to leave quickly. This showed that she wasn't a bad person. Just based on these 2 points, he could conclude that she was not an ordinary person. Perhaps she could be of help, so he made this call. Now, it seemed that he had made the right call. Moreover, she was in Zhuhai City. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said that she would be here in 15 minutes. Who is it? Why are you being so mysterious? Jiang Rui probed. Charlotte handed the phone to Jiang Rui and said with a smile, I told you, it's a friend. You don't know him. Jiang Rui rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Are you trying to be mysterious with me? I was still thinking about how to use that video to get you out. Looks like I was being a busybody. I'm too lazy to help you. I'll just let you stay here. Charlotte said, don't get involved in this for now. If you work here, Li Qinghua will make things difficult for you. You're just too kind. You're already like this, and you're still thinking about me? People like you will be eliminated by society. Although Jiang Rui said that, she was very happy in her heart. At this moment, Hubin walked over and said in a rough voice, Jiang Rui, what are you doing here? Jiang Rui looked back at Hubin, but lowered her voice and said to Charlotte, Lazy, don't worry. I will get you out. Jiang Rui, I'm asking you a question. Didn't you hear me? Hubin's tone was a little unhappy. Jiang Rui turned around and greeted him with a smile. So it's Captain Hu. Morning, Captain Hu. I'm asking you, what are you doing here? Hubin looked at Jiang Rui and Charlotte suspiciously. Jiang Rui said, Nothing. I know him. I'm just asking him what he did. You know each other? Hubin was surprised. Jiang Rui said, That was more than 10 years ago. I thought he looked familiar, so I asked him. We used to study in the same school. Hubin suddenly saw the phone in Jiang Rui's hand, and his face suddenly became gloomy. You called him? Jiang Rui suddenly became nervous. No. Why would I give him my phone? I didn't. Hubin stared at Jiang Rui. You better not be stupid. What are you still doing here? Go do your work. Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte and left with her head buried. Hubin opened the door of the prison and said rudely, Kid, let's go. Where are we going? Charlotte asked. Did I ask you to ask questions? You better be honest with me. Let's go. Hubin pushed Charlotte fiercely. Charlotte was brought to the interrogation room he went to last night. Once he entered the interrogation room, Hubin slammed the record book in his hand on the table. Last night, our chiefly was kind and didn't want to do anything to you. You better be smart, admit your crime, sign your name, and nothing will happen between us. If you still have the same attitude as last night. Humph, Xiao Lei said. You're saying that if I don't plead guilty and sign the statement, you'll torture me to get a confession, right? Looks like you won't learn until you suffer a little. Hubin turned around and made a gesture to the glass wall. The surveillance camera on the wall was quickly turned off. Charlotte's gaze moved to the glass wall. The ability of his left eye was awakened, and the glass wall disappeared in his left eye. He saw Li Qinghua standing behind the glass wall, and he also saw a police officer in charge of recording. Li Qinghua was looking into the interrogation room, and his mouth revealed a cold smile. Hubin suddenly kicked Charlotte. Caught off guard, Charlotte was kicked to the ground. Hubin didn't intend to stop there. He pounced forward and used his leg to kick Charlotte's stomach. Charlotte rolled on the ground and awkwardly dodged. He got up from the ground and wanted to retreat, but found that there was a wall behind him. Mother of asterisk her, you still dare to dodge? Hubin waved his hand and sent a punch towards Charlotte's face. At this critical moment, Charlotte's left eye inexplicably twitched. A strange thing happened. In his left eye, Hubin's fist suddenly slowed down. The speed of the fist, the trajectory of the fist, where it was going to hit his cheek, everything was under his control. Charlotte slightly leaned to the side and easily dodged Hubin's fist. Motherf asterisk her. You really dare to dodge? Hubin flew into a rage as he sent a punch towards Charlotte's head. After missing, his left hand sent a hook towards Charlotte's chin. But this time Charlotte still managed to dodge. Hubin was about to go crazy. He chased after Charlotte, both his fists whizzing towards Charlotte. But no matter how fast his fists were, no matter how tricky the angle of attack, his fists couldn't land on Charlotte's body. Under his attacks, Charlotte looked like a drunkard swaying left and right. But every move was just right, allowing him to easily dodge the attacks. Hubin was a police officer who had undergone professional combat training, while Charlotte was like a professional boxer. Charlotte, of course, wasn't a boxer. He also didn't undergo any combat training. The reason he could dodge was because of the ability of his left eye. If it wasn't for his left eye being able to see Hubin's fists, allowing him to predict where the fists would land, he would have been beaten into a pig head by Hubin. Faster, faster, faster. Charlotte, who was wearing handcuffs, continued to dodge as he mocked. Did you not eat breakfast this morning? This sentence almost made Hubin pass out from anger. His skills were the best in the North Gong District Police Station. He even won third place in the Haiju City Police competition. But in front of Charlotte, he found that he was like a child who didn't know how to fight. Outside the glass wall, Li Qinghua was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He roared, "Call people, this kid is too much. If we don't cripple him today, he'll think we're in a playground." Very quickly, several police officers rushed into the interrogation room and cornered Charlotte. Li Qinghua also walked into the interrogation room. His gaze was cold as he looked at Charlotte. "Kid, I don't know where you get your courage from, but I can tell you, today you'll leave here lying down." "Beat him." Several police officers rushed forward. "Stop." A clear voice suddenly came from the door of the interrogation room. Jiang Rui appeared at the door of the interrogation room. Li Qinghua turned around to look at Jiang Rui, his expression dark. Hubin and the other police officers who came to help also looked at Jiang Rui with surprise. In their eyes, Jiang Rui was just a female police officer who sat in the archives room. She had no status or right to speak in this police station. Today, she actually dared to ask Chief Li to stop. Did she eat a leopard's guts? At this moment, Jiang Rui really did panic a little, but she quickly calmed down. She gathered her courage and said, "What do you want to do? As police officers, how can you torture suspects? This is against the law." "Jiang Rui, why didn't you stay in the archives room? What are you doing here?" Hubin was the first to speak. "Get out. You have no right to speak here." Jiang Rui's face turned red. "I can't let you do this." "Jiang Rui." Li Qinghua finally spoke. He scolded, "You've been suspended. Go back and reflect first. Come back to work when you've thought things through. Why do you have to ask me to go back? I didn't do anything negligent, and I didn't do anything illegal." Jiang Rui's voice grew louder and louder. "Some people use their positions to seek personal gain. What nonsense are you talking about?" Li Qinghua's Achilles heel was exposed. He said angrily, "Get out of here. I'm not leaving. I'm right here. Take her away." Li Qinghua ordered. Hubin and a police officer walked towards Jiang Rui, preparing to use force. Jiang Rui subconsciously took a step back, but then braced herself and returned to her original position. Hubin reached out to grab Jiang Rui's collar. A hand suddenly reached in from the door and grabbed Hubin's hand. Then, a high-heeled foot kicked Hubin's lower abdomen. Bam! With a muffled sound, Hubin's body was thrown from the ground and then fell heavily to the ground. All eyes were focused on the door of the interrogation room. Beside Jiang Rui, a woman who was a head taller than Jiang Rui stood quietly. She had long black hair, a long black dress, black high heels, and a black handbag. She had a mysterious and deep color and a noble and cold temperament. Her appearance was like a cold current in Siberia, freezing everything here in an instant. 15 minutes. That was what Long Bing told Charlotte. Now that she was here, the time was exactly 15 minutes. Not a minute more, not a minute less. Chapter 10. The appearance of Long Bing excited Charlotte, but also shocked him. There was a large group of policemen in the interrogation room, but she directly kicked the captain of the crime squad in the police station. Li Qinghua was stunned for a moment, and was the first to come to his senses. He shouted angrily, "How dare you? Arrest her!" Several policemen then rushed to Long Bing. Long Bing suddenly lifted her black dress, and the moment her snow-white thighs were exposed, a gun that was inserted in her inner thigh fell into her hand. The next second, she pointed it at Li Qinghua's head. Several policemen who were ready to arrest her suddenly froze, and Li Qinghua's face was pale. Long Bing said coldly, "Arrest me? You're not qualified." Speaking up to this point, her tone suddenly became fierce. "All of you back off. Let her go." "You? Excuse me. Who are you?" Li Qinghua was not a fool. The woman who dared to point a gun at a policeman in the police station was definitely not an ordinary person. She must be very powerful. Before figuring out the details of this woman, he did not dare to act rashly, and his attitude changed. Long Bing did not appreciate it. "You're not qualified to know my identity." Li Qinghua said, "That's not good. This guy has committed the crime of extortion, which is a very serious crime. Even if he has someone to support him, he should consider the dignity of the law, right? Do you want to take a criminal away from the police station without saying anything?" Long Bing looked at Charlotte. "Did you really commit the crime of extortion?" Charlotte said, "He's talking nonsense. I didn't commit a crime." He pointed to Li Qinghua, but he used his position to trade power and sex. Also, he connived with his nephew, Chun Chuanhu, to do evil. He forced a project and illegally demolished it. These are economic crimes. Bullshit. Li Qinghua was suddenly angry. He grabbed a chair and threw it at Charlotte. "Stop!" Jiang Rui suddenly shouted. "What Charlotte said is true. I saw the video of you and that woman." Li Qinghua froze on the spot. The chair he had raised high also stopped in midair. Xiaolei looked at Jiang Rui in surprise. He knew that by doing this, she had already thrown her job and future to the back of her mind. Long Bing's lips curled into a strange smile. "No wonder you want to arrest him. Are you after that video?" "Nonsense." Li Qinghua tried his best to hide the anger and panic in his heart. He looked at Jiang Rui fiercely. "Jiang Rui, do you know what nonsense you're talking about? Where did you see the video?" Seeing that Li Qinghua was going to hit Charlotte with the chair, Jiang Rui said it in a hurry. Now that Li Qinghua was so fierce, she suddenly became timid again. She didn't dare to say what she wanted to say casually. Li Qinghua put down the chair and continued to pressure Jiang Rui. "Jiang Rui, you have to think clearly. You're a police officer of the Beigong District Police Station. Do you want to be in cahoots with criminals?" Jiang Rui lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Li Qinghua's fierce eyes. Long Bing patted Jiang Rui on the shoulder. "Officer, is what you said true? Don't be afraid. If what you said is true, I promise you that in 5 minutes, he won't be your director. You don't have to be afraid of him at all." All eyes were focused on Long Bing. She could make the director of the Beigong District Police Station resign in 5 minutes. How arrogant! Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte and seemed to have gained some courage at this moment. She said, "I saw in Charlotte's Baidu cloud drive." Charlotte was wronged. Jiang Rui. Li Qinghua was so angry that he rushed up and slapped Jiang Rui's cheek. Long Bing raised her hand, and the pistol in her hand suddenly pressed against Li Qinghua's forehead. "Try moving again." Li Qinghua didn't dare to move, and his forehead kept sweating. He kept guessing the identity of the strange woman in front of him, but he couldn't figure it out. At this time, Long Bing opened her handbag and took out her mobile phone. She dialed a number and said, "Uncle Li, please call the Anti-Corruption Bureau of Haizhu City and ask them to deal with the Beigong Police Station." She covered her phone and looked at Charlotte. "By the way, what's this guy's name?" "Li Qinghua. He's the director of the Beigong District Police Station," Charlotte said. Long Bing released her hand and said, "His name is Li Qinghua. He's involved in sex trafficking, corruption, bribery, and some official crimes. There's evidence." After a pause, She said, "Well, tell them to hurry up. I'm in a hurry." The room was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Charlotte secretly said in his heart, "Who is she? How could she ask the Anti-Corruption Bureau of Haiju City to do something in such a tone? She's so young, and she doesn't look like a big leader." Longbing put her phone back in her handbag and looked at Charlotte. 5 minutes. You'll leave with me in 5 minutes. Okay. Charlotte responded subconsciously, his heart full of gratitude. Ha ha. Li Qinghua laughed. What are you doing? 5 minutes? It takes half an hour to drive from your so-called Anti-Corruption Bureau to here. You've shown your foxtail, haven't you? You want to save Charlotte, so you pretend to be a big shot, right? Humph. I think you're a thief who wants to fish in troubled waters. Longbing said nothing. She just looked at the watch on her wrist. What are you waiting for? Arrest all 3 of them. Li Qinghua roared. The policemen looked at each other and did not move. Li Qinghua shouted at Jiang Rui again. "Jiang Rui, I now order you to delete the video that framed me immediately." Jiang Rui did not move either. In fact, everyone could see that Li Qinghua looked normal on the surface, but he was actually panicking and afraid. Li Qinghua pointed at Longbing again. "Didn't you say that I'll be dismissed in 5 minutes? Well, how many minutes have passed? If I'm fine in 5 minutes, I'll make you pay for it." As soon as he finished speaking, a policewoman appeared at the door with a fax in her hand. The situation in the interrogation room had obviously shocked her. She was stunned for a moment before she came back to her senses. She stuffed the fax into Jiang Rui's hands and said nervously, "Rui, this is fax from your fax machine. You deal with it." Jiang Rui glanced at it and suddenly smiled. She said excitedly, "It's faxed by the Anti-Corruption Bureau. They asked us to let us." She pointed at Li Qinghua and said, "The Anti-Corruption Bureau asked US to arrest him. This is the arrest warrant." She held up the fax in her hand. It was indeed an arrest warrant, written in black and white, with the special stamp of the Anti-Corruption Bureau. Li Qinghua suddenly started running out. Charlotte kicked Li Qinghua's back, and Li Qinghua immediately fell to the ground. Li Qinghua glared at Charlotte. "You mother of asterisk cur." Longbing kicked Li Qinghua's head, and his cursing stopped abruptly. The director was knocked unconscious, but the policeman pretended not to see it, and no one went forward to help Li Qinghua. When Li Qinghua was the director, they did things according to Li Qinghua's instructions. Now that Li Qinghua had become a criminal, they immediately drew a line with him. "What's your name?" Longbing looked at Jiang Rui and asked. Jiang Rui was slightly stunned. "Jiang Rui, may I ask who you are?" As she spoke, she glanced at Charlotte from the corner of her eye and thought to herself, "When did this guy get to know such a strange woman?" Longbing said, "It doesn't matter who I am. You're very good, and a person like you shouldn't just be a clerk." Jiang Rui secretly tried to figure out the meaning of Longbing's words. Longbing looked at the watch on her wrist again. 5 minutes are up. "Charlotte, come with me." Charlotte smiled bitterly and followed Longbing out of the interrogation room. Walking out of the police station, the sun shone on his face, and the feeling of regaining freedom made him feel relaxed. "Thank you." Charlotte looked at Longbing, his eyes full of gratitude and sincerity. Longbing said, "You did me a favor, and I did you a favor. We're even." Charlotte smiled. "Well, we're even, but no matter what, thank you for what you did just now." Longbing's eyebrows furrowed slightly. "Do you like to say thanks a lot?" Charlotte shrugged awkwardly. He didn't know how to talk to her. Longbing gave him a strange feeling, and she was not easy to get along with. Longbing said again, "I've checked your information. You have a sister who is going to college. You don't have a formal job. Do you need me to introduce you? I can help you find a formal job, which is far more stable than working on a construction site." Charlotte was secretly surprised. He didn't expect her to investigate his details so clearly. He also believed that with Longbing's ability, she could help him find a formal job, but he had his own plan in his heart. "No, thank you. Do you still want to go to Macau to make money? You can't win money every time." Charlotte smiled and said, "The last time I went to Macau was the first time, and it was probably the last time. I didn't think about using gambling to make money to support my family." What are your plans? Do what I want to do, Charlotte said. He wasn't worried about his future at all. With the ability of his left eye, he believed that he could make a world of his own. Longbing was silent for a while. She seemed to be thinking about something. After a long while, she said, I will return to the capital in the afternoon. You know how to contact me. If you need any help, you can call me. Charlotte nodded. I will call you if I need any help. What if I need your help? Longbing suddenly said. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled. Then you can call me. Hee, as long as I can help, I will help. However, you are such a powerful person. There must be very few places where you need my help, right? What do you do? In Macau. How did you see the sniper that night? Longbing didn't answer Charlotte's question, but she asked this question. Charlotte fell into silence, and Longbing didn't talk about her identity and profession. Both of them had questions in their hearts and hoped to get answers, but the other party just didn't want to say it. This seemed to be a vicious circle between the two of them. At this moment, Jiang Rui ran out and said from afar, Lazy, come over here. There is something I want you to explain. Charlotte responded, Okay, I'm coming right away. Then he looked at Longbing. Let's talk next time. Goodbye. Longbing's lips moved. She wanted to say something, but she didn't say it. Chapter 11. Li Qinghua was placed on file for investigation, and Chen Chuanhu was arrested. The video of power and sex trade shot by Charlotte was just a lead. The investigation team followed this lead, and Li Qinghua and Chen Chuanhu's crimes were exposed one by one. What awaited these two people would be the severe punishment of the law. In the blink of an eye, a week passed. Ma Xiaoan was discharged from the hospital. He really bought a MacBook Pro for Xia Shui and sent it to Charlotte's home. Xia Shui didn't dare to accept it, but Ma Xiaoan forced the computer to Xia Shui. Brother, look at him. Xia Shui looked at Charlotte for help. Just accept it. You have already bought it. It will be troublesome to refund the money. Charlotte said, Thank you, Brother Xiaoan. Xia Shui suddenly smiled. She actually wanted this computer. Charlotte also smiled and was very happy. Girl, you go and cook a few dishes. We will ask Xiao and stay here for lunch. He stayed in the hospital for a week. He must be hungry. Xia Shui said, Okay, I will go and see what is in the refrigerator. If it is not enough, I will go to the supermarket to buy it. Ma Xiaoan said with a smile, I am really hungry these days. The food in the hospital is too bad. Little Shui, you must make me a braised pork. I like the braised pork you make the most. You are so fat, and you still want braised pork? However, I will still make it for you. Xia Shui said. The house was full of laughter. This house hadn't been so lively and happy for a long time. Ring, 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 ring. Charlotte's cell phone suddenly rang. It was Jiang Rui who called. Lazy, where are you? Charlotte said, I am at home. What's the matter? Jiang Rui said, Come down quickly. I will wait for you at the entrance of the community. Sister is looking for you. Well, you wait for me. I will come down right away. Charlotte hung up the phone and said, Jiang Rui said that she is looking for me. I will go and see. A police car was parked at the entrance of the community. Jiang Rui stood next to the police car. She was dressed in a policewoman's uniform. She was curvy and had a willow waist, which was very pleasing to the eyes. Not knowing why, every time Charlotte saw her, he had the urge to see through her, but when facing Longbing, he didn't have such a thought. Why is it taking so long? As soon as Jiang Rui saw Charlotte, she scolded him, The sun is so hot. You made me wait for so long. Who's to blame if I get tanned? Charlotte smiled bitterly. Did you call me down just to talk about your skin? Of course it's important. Jiang Rui opened the door. Get in the car. We'll talk on the way. What's the matter? Charlotte said, Ma Xiaoan is still at my house. I said that I would invite him to dinner. Jiang Rui pushed Charlotte into the car. She said as she pushed, You and Ma Xiaoan eat together every 2 or 3 days. You don't need to miss this meal. My matter is more important. Today you have to go with me. Charlotte subconsciously held the luggage rack on the roof and said awkwardly, Rui, what's the matter? Can't you tell me now? You get in the car. Jiang Rui suddenly hugged Charlotte's waist and used all her strength to push Charlotte into the passenger seat. His back was pushed by two soft bodies. Charlotte panicked all of a sudden. His hand that was holding the luggage rack loosened, and he was forced into the passenger seat by Jiang Rui. He didn't know why, but he suddenly remembered that when he and Jiang Rui played together when they were young, Jiang Rui always liked to do this. She suddenly hugged him from behind, then threw him to the ground or pushed him into the river, and then looked at him and smiled happily. But after all, that was when they were young. Now that he and she had grown up, how could she still do this? Jiang Rui got in the car, turned on the ignition, and drove the police car away from the entrance of the community. It seemed that it was impossible to go back to eat with Ma Xiaoan. Charlotte called Ma Xiaoan and asked him to eat with Xia Shui. He wouldn't go back. He thought that Ma Xiaoan would complain a little, but he didn't expect Ma Xiaoan to laugh. He looked very cheap, and he didn't know what he was laughing at. After making the phone call, Charlotte was relieved. Rui, can you tell me now? Jiang Rui opened a handbag next to the driver's seat. She took out a stack of money and put it on Charlotte's thigh. This stack of money was 10,000 yuan, and the bank seal hadn't been opened yet. Charlotte was stunned and joked. Rui, are you going to provide for me? Bah, who's providing for you? Jiang Rui's face suddenly turned red. I'm still waiting for someone to provide for me. Only a ghost will provide for you. Then, what's your motive for throwing 10,000 yuan at me? Asked Charlotte. This is the bonus I just received because of Li Qinghua and Chen Chuanu's case. Jiang Rui said. Charlotte said, it turns out to be like this, but this is your bonus. Why did you throw it at me? I can't take your money. Jiang Rui glared at Charlotte. Who said I'm going to give it to you? I've already planned this bonus. I'm going to buy a set of L'Oreal Paris Cosmetics, a few beautiful dresses, Brazilian pine nuts, beef jerky, durian, bye. I'll buy whatever I like. Charlotte said gloomily. Then what do you mean by throwing it at me? Jiang Rui pursed her lips and smiled. I think you contributed a lot to me getting this 10,000 yuan bonus, so I want to treat you to a good meal. Charlotte smiled. Well, at least you have a conscience. Treat me to a good Western restaurant. I haven't eaten Western food in my life. In your dreams. The budget for this meal is only 200 yuan. Let's go to a Sichuan restaurant. Jiang Rui said. Charlotte. Jiang Rui hit Charlotte and giggled. You're still so honest. You believe everything I say. I'm treating you to a restaurant not only because I got a dollar bonus, but also because I have a big happy event to share with you. Xiaolei rolled his eyes at her. Don't tell me it's because you finally found someone? Jiang Rui was suddenly annoyed. What do you mean finally? That's so unpleasant. Am I the kind of woman who can't find a boyfriend? Let me tell you, as long as I want, the men who chase me can form an infantry phalanx. Okay. Infantry phalanx it is. Charlotte shrugged. Tell me about your big happy event. What is it? You won't believe it. After a pause, Jiang Rui said seriously, I was promoted to the chief of the Beigong District Police Station, which means I took over Li Qinghua's position. Charlotte was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. But there's a 3-month probation period. If you do well, you'll become an official one. Charlotte said, it's just a process. You'll be fine. You can do it. Jiang Rui laughed. Haha, I like to hear you say that. I guess it's mostly related to your friend. What do you think? Charlotte shook his head. I don't know anything about this. It's not easy to judge. If you think it's her, then so be it. Who is she? Jiang Rui glanced at Charlotte. Is she your girlfriend? Charlotte smiled bitterly. She's such a powerful woman. How could she like a poor guy like me? Don't joke around. I'm actually not very familiar with her. Not familiar? Jiang Rui said in surprise. You're not familiar with her, but she dared to break into the police station for you. She even pointed a gun at the police chief's head. It's not what you think. I happened to do her a favor a week ago. She just returned the favor, said Charlotte. What did you do for her? Jiang Rui looked very curious. Charlotte said, she doesn't want me to say it. Don't ask. You're being secretive. There must be something wrong with you. I say, did you invite me out for a meal or to ask me questions? Of course it's to invite you out for a meal. Jiang Rui stopped the car. There was a Sichuan restaurant on the side of the road. Are you really going to eat Sichuan cuisine? Charlotte was a little speechless. Get out of the car. What else do you want to eat with a budget of 200 yuan? It's good enough that I didn't invite you to eat rice noodles. Jiang Rui got out of the car. She stretched and looked very happy. At that moment, Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly. Jiang Rui, who was standing under the sun, suddenly turned into a white place. She was full of curves and full of sexiness. His gaze stayed in the place where it shouldn't be, like a bee resting in the heart of a flower, not wanting to leave the sweet taste. Why are you looking at me like that? Get out of the car. Jiang Rui didn't know what she had become in Charlotte's eyes. She urged Charlotte to get out of the car. Only then did Charlotte come back to his senses. He looked away, and a bitter smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Why couldn't he control the urge to look at Jiang Rui with his X-ray vision? Jiang Rui locked the car and walked to the Sichuan restaurant on the side of the road. Charlotte followed behind her. He didn't even look at her buttocks wrapped in the uniform skirt. He was afraid that he couldn't help but do it again. A feast for the eyes, and Jiang Rui always made his appetite increase. This was an unsolvable problem. At this time, an old man stood under a telephone pole by the side of the road, brushing paste, and then pasted a notice. The telephone pole was at least 20 meters away from Charlotte. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible to see the words on the notice. However, Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly, and the notice seemed to be pulled in front of him in an instant. The words on it were also clearly visible. It was a notice for the transfer of a mechanical processing shop. Charlotte's heart moved, and he secretly said, I learned welding and lathe operation on the construction site. I just have some money in my hands. Why don't I try to open my own shop? Working on the construction site, I will be an employee for a lifetime. If I open my own shop, no matter how much I earn, I will be the boss. What's more, my eyes have a very special ability. I will definitely be able to do better than before. Thinking of this, Charlotte was moved. He wanted to go up and ask the old man, Lazy, what are you doing? Jiang Rui cried. Come and order, I'm hungry. After eating, you have to accompany me to buy clothes. Hurry up. Charlotte sighed softly, silently wrote down the contact information and address on the notice, and then entered the Sichuan restaurant. After eating, Jiang Rui pulled Charlotte to accompany her to go shopping to buy clothes. Charlotte was worried about finding a reason to refuse her, but Jiang Rui received a call from the police station, asking her to deal with a sudden case. What bad luck. I'm still on vacation. How can you ask me to go back to work? After answering the phone, Jiang Rui looked unhappy. Charlotte said with a smile, You are now the director. You should hurry to deal with the case. Work is more important. How will you go back? Jiang Rui said, Why don't I send you back first and then go back to the police station? Charlotte said, No, it's not far. I can walk back. Well, I'm leaving. Remember to accompany me to go shopping to buy clothes tomorrow. Jiang Rui pointed at Charlotte's nose. Don't find an excuse to refuse. Any excuse is useless. Charlotte. Chapter 12. The afternoon sun shone on the streets and alleys. It was like being in a steamer wherever one went. Under the blazing sun, Xia Lei finally found the machinery processing shop on the transfer notice. It was at the entrance of an old alley. The shop was facing a main road, which was convenient for transportation. There was also a similar notice posted on the door of the machinery processing shop. The old man who posted the notice on the telephone pole at noon was packing up his things in the shop. He didn't notice Charlotte, who was looking inside the shop. Charlotte quietly observed the situation of the shop. He found that although the location was a bit out of the way, the traffic and human flow were very good. There was a Golden Rooster CS 6140B lathe in the shop. It looked like it was 60 to 70% new. He had used this kind of lathe when he worked in the processing factory before. It was aimed at small processing parts. The precision and practicality were good. There was also a welding machine and gas cylinder cutter in the shop. The tools were quite comprehensive. As far as the situation of the shop was concerned, as long as he bought it, he could open for business with a little preparation. After looking at the equipment and tools in the shop, as well as the situation of the shop, Charlotte had some idea in his heart. After that, he walked into the machinery processing shop. Only then did the old man notice Charlotte. He looked at Charlotte and probed. Young man, Are you here to process things? No, I'm here to talk to you. Charlotte said, I saw the notice you posted, and I happen to be a little interested. A smile suddenly appeared on the old man's face. So you're here to buy the shop? Well, I'll talk to you. Please sit down. No need. Just stand and talk. Charlotte didn't want the old man to know that he really wanted the shop. If that was the case, he would definitely be at a disadvantage when negotiating the price. The old man said, Well, you can stand and talk. Young man, what's your name? Charlotte. Charlotte said, What about you, Grandpa? The old man smiled. My surname is Jiang. You can call me Grandpa Jiang. Grandpa Jiang, why don't you do it? Charlotte asked. As you can see, I'm getting on in years. I'll be 60 this year. I can't do it anymore. My eyes are not so good now, and I'm always making mistakes when I'm working for people, and I'm tired of doing it. I want to go back to my hometown and hold my grandchildren. I've been working hard all my life. It's time for me to enjoy a few years of peace. Grandpa Jiang looked very cheerful. How's the business here? Charlotte asked again. Uncle Jiang said it's not bad. Besides the rent, utilities, and other expenses, I can earn 8 or 9,000 or 10,000 yuan a month. If it weren't for the fact that my eyes weren't working, I would have been reluctant to do so. Young man, if your craftsmanship is good, I believe business will get better and better. Charlotte said with a smile. If the craftsmanship is good, of course the business won't be bad. Sir, let's not beat around the bush. I want to buy your shop. How much do you want? Grandpa Jiang touched his chin. How about this? At that moment, a man and a woman suddenly walked in. Grandpa Jiang shut his mouth. Charlotte looked at the man and woman. The man was in a suit and was about 30 years old. He had a strong body, and his face and eyes were a little fierce, giving off a very unfriendly feeling. The woman was about 25 or 26 years old, mature and sexy. As soon as she entered the door, she frowned, as if the environment and the people here made her uncomfortable. The man in the suit said, Which one of you is the boss? Grandpa Jiang said, I am. What can I do for you? The man in the suit said, I have something that needs to be welded. After saying that, he gave the sexy woman next to him a look. The sexy woman then opened a briefcase in her hand and took out a red cloth bag from inside. She opened the red cloth bag and revealed the object wrapped in the red cloth. It was a very old cast iron key, about 7 inches long, with strange patterns on the surface. The key had been broken into 2 pieces. The marks were old, and no one knew when it had been broken. Can you weld it? The sexy woman asked. Her voice was soft and pleasant to hear. Let me see. Grandpa Jiang walked up and reached out to take the cast iron key. The man in the suit suddenly grabbed Grandpa Jiang's wrist. This thing is very important. My request is not as simple as welding it. The lines on this key can't be damaged, and it has to be welded well. It can't be too much, too little. It can't be too high or too low. Do you understand what I mean? If you are sure, you can take this job. Grandpa Jiang was stunned for a moment and then said, Sir, your requirements are too high. I'm afraid I can't do it. You should find someone else to do it. The man in the suit said, I've asked around. They all say that you have the best skills in this area. If you can weld this key for me according to my requirements, I'll give you 5,000 yuan. 5,000 yuan? Grandpa Jiang looked very surprised. He opened a shop for a month and worked hard to earn 8,000 or 10,000 yuan, but he could earn 5,000 yuan by welding a key. As far as the reward was concerned, it was really tempting. Can you do it? The man in the suit took out 2 pieces of cast iron from the briefcase in the woman's hand. If you can weld this first. If I think you can do it, you can take this job. The cast iron pieces in the man's hand also had similar patterns. They were twisted and looked very complicated. Grandpa Jiang glanced at them and thought for a moment. In the end, he shook his head and said, The reward you're offering is very impressive, but your requirements are too high. Even if my eyes were as good as when I was young, I wouldn't dare to take your job. What's more, I'm old now. I don't dare to take your job. You should find someone else. If you don't even dare to try, how can you run a shop? The sexy woman's eyes were full of contempt. Her words were not pleasant to hear, but Grandpa Jiang accepted it silently. I'm sorry, I really can't do it. You should find someone else. The man in the suit snorted coldly and said, You'd better close this shop as soon as possible. What kind of shop are you running? Grandpa Jiang had a good temper, so he accepted it silently. At this time, Charlotte said, Let me have a look. Who are you? The man in the suit stared at Charlotte with a little vigilance in his eyes. Grandpa Jiang then said, In fact, I really don't plan to continue opening this shop. He came to take over my shop. I can't do it, but maybe he can. You can show him. Can you? The man in the suit didn't believe in Charlotte's craftsmanship. In his opinion, Charlotte was just a young boy in his early 20s. His craftsmanship couldn't be that good. Charlotte said, I have to try to know whether I can do it or not. I'll weld these 2 cast iron pieces first. You can have a look. The man in the suit and the sexy woman exchanged glances. The man in the suit handed the 2 cast iron pieces to Charlotte. Charlotte took the 2 cast iron pieces and first observed the patterns on them and the thickness of the cast iron pieces. Then, he walked to the welding machine and started it. He put a cast iron electrode on the welding holder. Can you do it? If you can't, don't do it, said the sexy woman. She also didn't believe in Charlotte's craftsmanship. Charlotte didn't say anything. He took the goggles and started welding. It wasn't difficult to weld the cast iron pieces. Anyone who knew how to weld could do it, but not everyone could weld the patterns on the cast iron pieces perfectly. With such difficulty, even senior welding engineers couldn't easily say that they could weld it. The reason was very simple. When welding, the human eye couldn't see the gaps and lines under the strong light. The gaps could be welded with experience, but the lines couldn't be welded with experience. They had to see it with their own eyes. For ordinary welders, this was an insurmountable obstacle, but for Charlotte, it was a piece of cake. His left eye could see through the goggles, and he could clearly see the lines on the cast iron pieces. There was a blinding light under the welding pliers. The man in the suit, the sexy woman, and Grandpa Jiang did not dare to look directly at the light. However, with the blinding light from the eye mask, Charlotte was able to look directly at the center of the light with his left eye. The gaps and lines on the cast iron sheet were clearly visible to him. He gently moved the welding pliers in his hands and welded the gaps and lines on the cast iron sheet. Can you do it? The sexy girl muttered, I think he's just pretending. He'd better not lie to me, or else. The man in the suit didn't continue, but his tone was very unfriendly. Charlotte pretended not to hear their conversation. The reason he was willing to help was not because he wanted to earn the 5,000 yuan, but because he wanted to test the effect of using his left eye in the field of work. Also, he wanted to take over the shop. He didn't want the two of them to say that this shop wasn't good after they left. After a few minutes, Charlotte put down the welding pliers. The man in the suit and the sexy woman followed suit and leaned over to look at the cast iron sheets on the ground. The 2 cast iron sheets had been welded together. There were no weld scars on the gaps. Every line on the cast iron sheet was aligned, and a weld mark could be vaguely seen between the gaps. However, the weld mark was very smooth. It was not much, nor was it high. It was as if it had been glued together. Without a doubt, this was a perfect weld. The man in the suit, the sexy woman, and Grandpa Jiang were all stunned. They were speechless for a long time. Charlotte said, I've welded it. Are you satisfied? The man in the suit came back to his senses this time, and a smile appeared on his face. Hee, young master, you have great skills. Before I came here, I looked for a welding engineer, but even he wasn't confident that he could weld it well. I didn't expect to find such an expert in a small shop like this. How about this? If you help me weld this key, I'll give you an extra 1,000 yuan. However, Charlotte smiled and said, Sorry, I didn't say that I would help you weld the key. I'll just help you weld these 2 cast iron sheets. I won't charge you any money. The man in the suit suddenly showed anger on his face, but he suppressed it in the blink of an eye. He smiled and said, Hee, young master, why do you have to do this? If you think the money is too little, we could discuss it again. How about this? You name your price. Charlotte said, You heard it just now. I'm not the owner of this shop. I'm just here to talk about the shop. The sexy woman leaned in front of Charlotte and said in a sweet voice, Young master, please help me. If you help me, I won't treat you badly. The voice that made people's bones go soft and the sexy figure were all incentives. Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly. The sexy woman's dress dissipated like mist in the morning light. He was stunned for a moment, and a little sweat appeared on his forehead. This woman was very open. She wore nothing underneath. Okay. The sexy woman put her hand on Charlotte's shoulder and shook it gently. Charlotte took a step back and said, I can do it, but you have to apologize to Grandpa Jiang. What you said just now was not pleasant to hear. The man in the suit's mouth twitched slightly, but he then said to Grandpa Jiang, Grandpa Jiang, right? I'm sorry. It was our fault just now. Please accept our apology. This is nothing, hee, Grandpa Jiang said with a smile, and looked at Charlotte gratefully. Give it to me. Charlotte held out his hand. The sexy woman then handed the cast iron key wrapped in red cloth to Charlotte, her eyes full of expectation. Charlotte walked to the welding machine again and picked up the welding pliers and goggles. He could weld the 2 cast iron sheets just now, so he could also weld the key. Chapter 13. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. With experience, this time Xia Lei welded the key even faster than when he welded the cast iron pieces. In less than 5 minutes, he had finished the welding, and it was even better than before. The man in the suit excitedly grabbed the hot cast iron key with a red cloth and observed the welding lines. Then he said to the woman next to him, Give him 6,000 yuan. Let's go. Without saying anything, the sexy woman took 6,000 yuan from her wallet and gave it to Charlotte. Charlotte handed the money to old Jiang, but old Jiang waved his hand repeatedly. No, no, no. How can I take this money, young man? If I take it, I won't be able to show my face. You earned this money. Keep it for yourself. Charlotte smiled. Then I'll stay. While they were talking, the man in the suit and the sexy woman had already left. They didn't even say a word. They're so mysterious. I don't know what they're doing, old Jiang muttered. In fact, Charlotte was also very confused. He thought to himself, that key is probably hundreds of years old, right? Why was it broken? Why did these 2 people come to this remote place to find a welder? Young man, let's continue talking, old Jiang said. Charlotte said with a smile. Well, sir, just give me a price. Old Jiang said, Originally, I wanted to sell it for 110,000 yuan. As you can see, these equipment, the port here, and 2 years of rent, this price is very reasonable. However, seeing you show off your skills, I admire you from the bottom of my heart. I've been in this business all my life, and I've never seen anyone as good as you. It's fate that I'll give you this shop that has been with me for half of my life. How about this? You give me 105,000 yuan. Deal. Thank you, sir. Charlotte was also very straightforward. When all the procedures were completed, it was almost dark. Charlotte called Ma Xiaoan over. When he told Ma Xiaoan what had happened, Ma Xiaoan was shocked. My brother, where did you get so much money? Isn't it too sudden? Ma Xiaoan's expression was very exaggerated. Don't worry about the money. I just want to know if you're interested in working with me. Charlotte said, Of course. I will be wherever you were these past few years. We 2 brothers have always been together. It is better to work for you than to work for others. Ma Xiaoan said happily. Then let's do it together. You won't be working for me. We'll split the money evenly. Charlotte said, That won't do. This shop is yours. How can I share it with you? Let's do it this way. If you earn more, you give me more. If you earn less, you give me less. If you lose money, I don't want your money. Ma Xiaoan said, You brat. All right, it's settled then. I'll buy some more equipment and renovate the shop before I can open for business, Charlotte said with a smile. Have you thought about the name of the shop? Ma Xiaoan asked. Charlotte thought for a moment. My surname is Lei, and your surname is Ma. Let's call it Lei Ma Studio. Not good, Ma Xiaoan said. Do you have a better one? Charlotte looked at Ma Xiaoan curiously. Ma Xiaoan said with a smile, Your surname is Lei, and your future sister-in-law's surname is Jiang. It should be called Lei Jiang Studio. F*CKU. Charlotte slapped him, but Ma Xiaoan had already dodged it. Both of them were very happy to have their own studio. It felt like a person who had been wandering outside for a long time suddenly had a home. The two of them cleaned up the clutter in the shop and then cleaned up the place. Only when Xia Shui called to urge them to eat dinner did the two of them ride an old Qianjiang 125 motorcycle back. That night, Charlotte ordered several pieces of equipment and tools online and spent tens of thousands. The money he won in Macau was almost spent here. Without the money, his heart was more secure. With his own studio, even if he didn't earn a lot of money, his job and income would definitely be more stable than before. More importantly, with the ability of his left eye, as long as he made a name for himself in this industry, maybe he could really do something big. That night, Xiaolei had good sleep. He dreamed of Jiang Rui and Long Bing. They were fair and tender. He saw all of their secrets to his heart's content. Then, he awkwardly changed into a new pair of underwear. Early the next morning, Charlotte simply ate some porridge and went out. As soon as he came downstairs, he met Jiang Rui, who was immersed in walking upstairs. If he didn't take the initiative to step aside, Jiang Rui would have bumped into his arms. "Rui, what's wrong with you? It's early in the morning, and you look like you've lost your soul," Charlotte said. I was going to your house to look for you." When Jiang Rui saw Charlotte, her face suddenly showed a smile. "Don't smile at me. Nothing good happens when you smile at me," Charlotte said. "I have to make it clear to you first. I don't have time to go shopping with you today. If you really need someone to accompany you, I'll ask Xiao Shui to accompany you. Why do you still need to buy clothes? Now, even if you let me wear a dragon robe, I won't be happy." Jiang Rui frowned again. "What happened?" Jiang Rui said quickly. "When I had lunch with you yesterday, didn't I receive a phone call asking me to go to the crime scene? There was a difficult case, and the higher-ups gave a death order. They gave our branch a week to solve the case, or I will be removed as the bureau chief." "What case? It's not that serious, right?" "How is it not serious?" Professor Zhang Piqing, the leading archaeologist in Haizhu City, was killed in his home 2 days ago. Yesterday, his maid came back from his hometown and found his body. The murderer's technique is very sophisticated. There are no traces left at the scene, and even the terminal of the monitor has been taken away. We have no clues to solve the case in our hands. Jiang Rui cried. "Lei, what do you think I should do? This kind of thing is really troublesome, but I can't help you." Charlotte said. "Who said you can't help? I'm here to ask for your help," Charlotte said in surprise. "Me? I'm not a policeman, and I'm not a private detective. What can I help you with?" Jiang Rui said, "Don't you know a woman with a very powerful background? The woman who pointed a gun at Li Qinghua's head last time. I thought about it all night last night. She is so powerful and has a powerful background. She can definitely help me get through this difficult time." "Charlotte, Lei, help me. You can't bear to see me only be a director for a week, can you?" Jiang Rui took Charlotte's hand and shook it gently, looking like a spoiled child. Charlotte didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "I really don't know her well. She can't help me with this kind of thing, right?" Speaking of this, he suddenly thought of something. "Wait, you just said that a cultural relic was lost. What cultural relic was lost?" "It's a key." Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly said, "What key?" "It seems to be an iron key. It has a history of hundreds of years." Jiang Rui stared at Charlotte. "Why do you ask this?" Charlotte said with a smile. "I happened to see that key." Jiang Rui said in surprise. "You've seen that key? How is that possible?" Charlotte told her what happened yesterday afternoon. "Quick, come with me." Jiang Rui pulled Charlotte to the parking lot of the neighborhood. "Where are you taking me?" Jiang Rui said excitedly. "Follow me to the police station. I have a photo of the key in my office and some information about Professor Zhang's research on it. You could take a look. Most importantly, describe to me the features of those two people, and I'll draw them." Charlotte secretly sighed in his heart. He originally planned to go to his studio, but now it seemed that he couldn't go. Half an hour later, Charlotte followed Jiang Rui to the Beigong District Police Station. As soon as he entered the police station, Charlotte found that the police officers in the police station were looking at him and Jiang Rui. Many people's eyes were gloating. These people seemed to be waiting to see Jiang Rui make a fool of herself. If Jiang Rui was removed from her position as the bureau chief in a week, it would be enough for them to make fun of her for a while. "Hurry up, I hate these guys." Jiang Rui urged Charlotte in a low voice. Charlotte said with a smile, "You are the bureau chief. You are their superior. How can a superior be afraid of a subordinate? You should have some dignity." "Let's talk about dignity after we get through this." Jiang Rui pushed Charlotte's shoulder and walked forward. She didn't mind the strange looks from her colleagues in the police station. After entering the office, Jiang Rui took out a document bag and handed it to Charlotte. There were a few photos in the document bag. There were photos of the corpse, photos of the scene, and a photo of the key. Seeing the key in the photo, Charlotte was stunned. The key in the photo was the key that he had welded yesterday. The length, color, and lines of the two were exactly the same. The appearance of the man in the suit and the sexy woman suddenly appeared in his mind. Their clothes, height, face, eyes, and so on appeared in his mind one by one. It felt as if he had returned to the time of yesterday afternoon, when he saw the two of them in old Zhang's shop with his own eyes. What's going on? How can I remember it so clearly? It's like looking at the photos of the two of them. Even if I have an outstanding memory, it can't be to this extent, right? Charlotte was shocked. Jiang Rui stared straight at Charlotte. What did you think of? Charlotte didn't seem to hear her. He closed his eyes and recalled the lines of the cast iron key that he had welded. The image of the cast iron key appeared in his mind again. The complex lines were clearly presented in his mind. Every detail was very clear, as if he was looking at the photo of the key with his own eyes. Half a minute later, Charlotte opened his eyes and looked at the photo of the key. The lines of the key that he had just recalled were exactly the same as the lines of the key in the photo. In his memory just now, he almost didn't forget any details. Xiao Lei suddenly understood. This was not a memory at all. It was more like his left eye had stored images of everything he had seen. As long as he tried to recall a certain image, his left eye would provide a clear image that was similar to a photograph. Inadvertently, he discovered a new ability of his left eye: photographic memory. Chapter 14. What did you find? Jiang Rui was very curious about Charlotte's actions. Charlotte smiled. Nothing. I'm sure it's this key. Do you still remember what the man and woman looked like? Of course. I'll describe them to you. Can you draw them? Of course. I've studied sketching in the police academy, and I even won an award. Jiang Rui found a pen and paper and sat across from Charlotte. I'm ready. Let's start. Draw the man first. Charlotte slowly described the features of the man in a suit, while Jiang Rui slowly sketched with a pen. If there was a device that could print out the image in Charlotte's brain, he could get the picture of the man in a suit and the sexy woman in a second. Unfortunately, there was no such device. While describing to Jiang Rui, Charlotte was secretly thinking about his eidetic memory ability. In fact, this ability was beyond the scope of eidetic memory, because even with eidetic memory, there was no way to remember everything that one saw, let alone all the features and details of a person that one saw. But his left eye could store everything that he saw as a picture. As long as he tried to recall, he would be able to recall everything. If I have this ability, if I teach myself English or other foreign languages, memorizing words would be a piece of cake for me. Why don't I try? Thinking of this, Charlotte was eager to try. Jiang Rui finished drawing two portraits, one of the man in a suit and the other of the sexy woman. Charlotte put the two portraits together and looked at them. The similarity was more than 95%. After all, sketches were not photos, so it was amazing that they could reach this level. Is it them? Let me confirm one last time. Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte. Charlotte nodded. It's these two people. Sit here for a while. I'll immediately have someone add the portraits of these two people to the Skynet system and put them on the wanted list. Jiang Rui picked up the two portraits and walked out. Charlotte said, Can I have a look at this key? Sure. Feel free to look around. Jiang Rui left the office. Charlotte picked up Professor Zhang Buiqing's research paper. After reading half a page, he suddenly had an idea. Why don't I try out the new ability of my left eye? After sorting it out, he had already determined that this ability wasn't his brain's memory, but his left eye's ability to save images. With this in mind, Charlotte no longer read normally. Instead, he quickly scanned page after page of information. Normally, it would take him about 10 minutes to finish reading the information, but he finished reading it in less than a minute. Then, he closed his eyes to recall the contents of the information. All of a sudden, paragraphs of text and pictures appeared in his mind. Not a single word was missing. Even the commas and periods were not missed. The pictures and the information were also very clear. It was a 100% match. The cast iron key in Professor Zhang's research paper was an antique from the Ming Dynasty. It had a history of more than 600 years. According to his research, this key was most likely used to open the vault door. The pattern on the key was not only the key to opening the vault door, but it could also be part of a map. This was a very mysterious thing. After recalling all the content, Charlotte couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. He laughed out loud. Unbelievable. What am I waiting for? I should go to the bookstore to buy materials for learning English, German, French, Japanese, Russian. As long as I want to learn, there's probably no foreign language in this world that I can't learn. He didn't know what other abilities is left I had yet to discover. However, other than the ability to see through things, the ability to save images in front of him was probably the most practical. A person needed to spend a long time and a lot of effort to learn a subject. However, with this ability, these learning difficulties were no longer difficult. His left eye had opened a window to the world of academia. What he saw was not a ray of sunlight, but the entire sun. What are you laughing at? Are you sick? Jiang Rui walked into the office and looked at Charlotte curiously. Only then did Xia Lei gather his thoughts. He smiled. My illness is acting up, and it's not a light one. Jiang Rui leaned in front of Charlotte and reached out to touch his forehead. It's not hot. You don't have a fever. Are you crazy? She was very close to him. She was wearing nice perfume, and there was a deep, snow-white cleavage in her collar. At this moment, Charlotte almost couldn't help but use his X-ray vision on her again. He looked away and then stood up. Okay, I've helped you draw the portraits of the two suspects. Now there's nothing else for me to do, right? If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. I have to go to the store to take care of the opening. I really want to visit your store. Jiang Rui smiled and said, That's good. It's better to run your own store than to work at a construction site. Tell me, where did you get so much money to open a store? What's wrong with my savings? Okay, I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Charlotte left. Lei, if the case is solved this time, I'll treat you to a meal, Jiang Rui said. Charlotte looked back at her. Are we still going to that Sichuan restaurant? Jiang Rui shook her head. No, let's go to another Sichuan restaurant. Charlotte was speechless. At this moment, a middle-aged police officer appeared at the door of the office and blocked Charlotte's way. Charlotte stepped aside politely and looked at his work pass at the same time. This middle-aged police officer's name was Huang Changhai. He was wearing the rank of first-class superintendent, which was the same as Jiang Rui's current rank. Huang Changhai was the deputy chief of this branch. After Li Qinghua fell, he thought that he would be the one to take over the position of chief. He didn't expect that the higher-ups would make an exception and promote Jiang Rui. In the entire North Arch branch, he was the one who disobeyed Jiang Rui the most. Huang Changhai glanced at Charlotte, and then strode into Jiang Rui's office. He slammed the two printed portraits on Jiang Rui's desk. Chief Jiang, you don't even have a single piece of evidence to issue an arrest warrant. This is against the rules. Jiang Rui's shoulders trembled slightly when he yelled at her. Her voice trembled as she said, Chief Huang, what evidence do you need? My friend saw it with his own eyes. It can't be wrong. Your friend? Huang Changhai turned to look at Charlotte. He suddenly remembered that this young man was the one who caused Li Qinghua's downfall. Jiang Rui waved at Charlotte. Lazy, tell Chief Huang what you know. Charlotte smiled bitterly. He thought to himself, You're such a coward as a chief. You act like a tigress in front of me, but you're like a rabbit in front of others. You're really something, he thought to himself, but his expression didn't change. He said, It's like this. These two suspects found me yesterday. I helped them weld the key, which is the key that was stolen from Professor Zhang's house. What do you know? Who are you? Did I ask you? Huang Changhai threw a barrage of insults at Xiaolei. Charlotte was stunned for a moment, then became angry. Am I talking to you? Who are you? I'm talking to Chief Jiang. What does it have to do with you? I only talk to the chief. I don't care about the deputy chief. Ew. Huang Changhai's fat face turned red from anger. He hated it when people called him deputy chief. But this kid in front of him was stepping on his sore spot. Jiang Rui said awkwardly. Lazy. Don't be like this, Charlotte said. And you, I don't want to criticize you. You're the chief, and your position is higher than his. How dare he throw a tantrum in front of you? Why does he have to do that? Huang Changhai pointed at Charlotte's nose. Kid, show some respect. Charlotte sneered. I only respect people who deserve respect. You can forget about it. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Jiang Rui found clues to solve the case. You're worried that she'll solve the case within a week and stabilize her position. You won't be able to replace her, right? Huang Changhai's mouth twitched twice, but he couldn't say anything. Charlotte really guessed his thoughts. He panicked when Jiang Rui suddenly drew the suspect's portrait. That was why he came to Jiang Rui's office, to create trouble. He wanted to delay Jiang Rui's pace of solving the case. Charlotte said, You're paid by the country, but you don't think about how to solve the case. Instead, you're dragging us down for your own personal gain. I really feel ashamed for people like you. Since you don't want to solve the case, why are you still a police officer? Do you know why the higher-ups didn't choose you, but Rui? With your thoughts, you'll never be the chief in your life. Okay, let's wait and see. Jiang Rui, you can solve the case alone. Huang Changhai grabbed the two portraits on the desk, crumpled them into a ball, and threw them into the wastebasket. He walked out of the office angrily. When he went out, he glared at Charlotte. Only Jiang Rui and Charlotte were left in the office. The atmosphere was a little dull. After a long while, Jiang Rui broke the silence. I didn't expect you to have such a sharp tongue. But why did you always lose when you argued with me? Charlotte smiled bitterly. The situation is very unfavorable to you now. Do you still have the mood to make fun of me? How is it unfavorable to me? Jiang Rui looked puzzled. Charlotte said, Didn't you hear what Huang Changhai said just now? You can solve the case alone. Don't you understand the meaning of this sentence? It's very difficult for you to command the people in the police station. Even if you take them to solve the case, they'll do it half-heartedly and won't do their best. Jiang Rui was stunned on the spot. Charlotte sighed. You're too naive. You're being sold, and you're still helping count the money. Think about it. You were suddenly promoted from an office clerk to a bureau chief. How many people in the police station will listen to you? After Li Qinghua fell, the one who has the final say in the police station is that Huang Changhai, not you. He has the prestige that he built up over the years and the people that he trained. You have nothing. Plus, the people in the police station think that you'll be dismissed in a week and that the person who will replace you will be Huang Changhai. Tell me, do you think they'll listen to Huang Changhai or you? Jiang Rui shook her head. I don't believe you. Work is work. There will always be people who stick to their principles, right? Even if I'll be dismissed in a week, I'll still be the bureau chief. I don't believe that I can't command them. Come with me. I'll prove you wrong. Charlotte smiled bitterly. All these years, I've worked hard in society. I've already seen through the ways of the world. There's no need to prove anything to me. I've already done what I can do. I can't help you with this kind of thing. I have to go. I won't take up much of your time. Jiang Rui grabbed Charlotte's hand and dragged him to the police station's office. Chapter 15. When she arrived at the police office, Jiang Rui was stunned on the spot. The office area was empty, with only a few civilian policewomen working. Jiang Rui walked to a female officer's desk and asked, Xiao Wang, what's going on? Where are they? The female officer called Xiao Wang said, They were all sent out by Director Huang. What are they doing? Xiao Wang said, Someone to investigate previous cases, someone on patrol, and someone to deal with a police call a few minutes ago about a burglary at home. Jiang Rui's face turned green with anger. She said angrily, Nonsense. The higher-ups gave us a week to solve the case. How can they go and catch some burglars at this time? Ahem. Huang Zhonghai also appeared in the police office. He was holding a Yixing purple clay cup with a gloating smile on his face. Xiao Wang, go make me a cup of tea. Yes, okay. Xiao Wang got up to make tea for Huang Zhonghai. Her attitude was obviously more respectful than that of Jiang Rui. Jiang Rui said angrily, Director Huang, what do you mean? If you send everyone out, who will investigate Professor Zhang's murder case? Huang Zhonghai said slowly, Me, I'll investigate. I'll personally lead the elites of our bureau to solve Professor Zhang's murder case. After a pause, he smiled and said, Director Jiang, you haven't led a team to solve any cases, so you have no experience in this area. Just wait in the office comfortably for my good news. I'll leave after drinking this cup of tea. Huang Zhonghai, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Jiang Rui was trembling with anger. I'm going to report this to the higher-ups. Huang Zhonghai laughed and said, Whatever you want. I'll personally lead the team to solve Professor Zhang's case. What else do you want? You can go by yourself if you want. You. Jiang Rui was so angry that she couldn't speak. What? Don't tell me you don't even have the ability to solve the case? Huang Zhonghai's tone was full of provocation. Charlotte didn't want to say anything at first, but he couldn't stand it anymore. He said, Huang Zhonghai, do you think you can stop Rui from solving the case by getting in the way? I'm telling you, it's no use. The suspect's portrait is out, so the case is already half solved. Huang Zhonghai sneered and said, These two so-called suspects were provided by you, right? You're just a kid working at a construction site. How could you possibly meet the suspect who murdered Professor Zhang? How trustworthy are your words? Do you have any proof? I think you probably want to woo our Chief Jiang. So you deliberately made up two groundless suspects to approach her on purpose, right? Charlotte also smiled. Don't celebrate too early. If Rui is dismissed in a week, then you will have the capital to laugh. If Rui solves the case and stabilizes her position in this week, I think you should be crying. Originally, I was going to work in the store, but this guy is so annoying. Rui, I decided to help you solve the case. He looked at Jiang Rui and said, But you have to promise me that you will find a chance to let this guy guard the shed in the future. Well, I promise you, Jiang Rui said with a nasal voice and a smile on her face. She looked at Charlotte gratefully and felt that her hatred was vented. Humph, I want to see who will guard the shed. There was no smile on Huang Zhonghai's face. Charlotte didn't want to talk to Huang Zhonghai anymore. He smiled and said, Rui, let's go. Walking out of the police station, Jiang Rui grabbed Charlotte, who was going forward, and said, Lei, just now. Thank you. If you hadn't spoken for me, I would have lost my face. Charlotte said, You were bullied. Of course, I have to help you. A beautiful smile appeared at the corner of Jiang Rui's mouth. She said tentatively, Just now Huang Zhonghai said that you want to hit on me. Is that true? Charlotte felt as if someone had stepped on his foot. Of course not. I will hit on anyone but you. When I was in the 3rd grade, you told the class teacher that I ate sweets in class, so I didn't have any fantasies about you. Jiang Rui punched Charlotte and said angrily, You still remember what happened in the 3rd grade. You're so narrow-minded. Charlotte avoided her second punch and said with a smile, Okay, no more jokes. Let's think about the case. Rui, what's your plan? Jiang Rui's mood fell again. I don't know what to do. Huang Zhonghai is right. I really have no experience in solving cases. She looked at Charlotte and said, Tell me, am I useless? Charlotte comforted her. Don't underestimate yourself. The higher-ups made an exception to appoint you as the bureau chief. There must be something they like about you. Although I haven't found your merits yet, your leader must have found them. Jiang Rui stared at Charlotte and said, Are you praising me or insulting me? Charlotte smiled and said, Of course I'm praising you. Well, take me to Professor Zhang's house. I said I would help you solve the case, so I will definitely help you. Jiang Rui frowned and said, The crime scene has been handled by the technical team. Nothing was found. It's useless for us to go there. Xiao Lei said, Maybe the people in the technical team missed something? Let's go and have a look. If we're lucky, maybe we can find some clues. Jiang Rui thought for a moment and said, Well, Let's go and have a look. Anyway, I don't know where to catch those two bastards. Charlotte got into Jiang Rui's car. In the car, he called Ma Xiaoan and told him what he should do. Ma Xiaoan said with a smile, "Don't worry. I can handle such a small matter. Don't worry and go on a date with your future sister-in-law. Remember to wear a condom. Haha. Wear your head." Charlotte lowered his voice and said, then decisively hung up the phone. Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte, who was sitting in the passenger seat, and said, "Who did you call? What did he ask you to bring?" Ma Xiaoan. "He asked me to remember." Charlotte almost spilled the beans. He quickly said, "He asked me to remember to bring money." "Bring money? What do you need money for?" Jiang Rui suddenly showed a beautiful smile. "Lei, do you want to invite me to dinner? Take me to eat Western food. I know a Western restaurant that serves good steak." Xiao Lei rolled his eyes at her in annoyance. "Eat your head. Drive your car properly." "Stingy," Jiang Rui muttered. "I'm teaching you how to get a woman. You're so stingy. How can you get a woman?" Charlotte, Professor Zhang Buoqing's home was located in a high-end community. It was a single-family villa. Professor Zhang's wife passed away a year ago. He had no children. After his death, the house became an empty house. It seemed very deserted. Jiang Rui tore the seal and entered the house with Charlotte. Under normal circumstances, the police seal was not allowed to be broken. However, as the director, he still had this right. Moreover, this was to solve the case. The living room was clean and everything was placed neatly. Was this cleaned up later, or was it like this before the case? Charlotte asked. Jiang Rui said, "When we received a report and rushed here, it was like this." The maid who reported the case said that she was going to wake Professor Zhang up and then clean up. Then she found Professor Zhang dead in his bedroom, so she reported the case. She said that she didn't touch anything after that. "Take me to the bedroom," Charlotte said. Jiang Rui took Charlotte to a bedroom on the second floor. The bedroom didn't look messy, and there were no obvious bloodstains on the floor. The corner of the quilt was lifted, as if the owner had just left the bed. The items in the bedroom looked normal. There was no damage, and they were not thrown around. It gave people the feeling that the old owner of the house just got up and went out to water the flowers or walk the dog. He would come back later. The only thing that was not harmonious was a human figure painted on the pine wood floor. It was near the window. That was probably where Professor Zhang was killed. Jiang Rui sighed softly. "This doesn't look like a murder scene at all. I don't understand how the two suspects did it. They didn't leave any traces." Charlotte said, "Dust will be left behind when the wind blows, let alone when people come here. It's impossible for the suspects to leave no traces at all. It's just that your people didn't find it." Jiang Rui said, "The technical team is all experts, and they have professional equipment. They have checked the inside and outside of this villa. They definitely didn't find any traces. We don't have anything. What else can we find?" Charlotte didn't argue with her on this point. He asked, "By the way, there are no signs of murder. How are you sure that Professor Zhang is a murderer?" "Of course it's the corpse. His neck was broken. It was done cleanly." Jiang Rui said, "If it weren't for this feature, I'm afraid we wouldn't even be sure if this case was a murder. Let me take a look first." Xiaolei walked to the window and carefully observed the human figure drawn with a pen on the floor. After a minute, he squatted on the floor and looked. After another minute, he even lay on the floor. Looking at the gap between the floors, his face was almost touching the floor. The technical team's police experts had equipment, magnifying glasses, fluorescent powder, and so on. He didn't have anything, but he had his eyes. As long as he wanted, he could even see the dust floating in the air. His eyes were much more useful than the technical team's detection equipment. Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte curiously. "Lei, what are you doing?" "Looking for clues," Charlotte said as he put his left eye into a gap in the floor. "I think you're looking for ants," Jiang Rui said. She quietly lifted one of her legs and was about to kick Charlotte's butt. Charlotte suddenly turned his head and saw Jiang Rui lifting her leg to kick his butt. Jiang Rui lifted her leg higher. Moreover, she was wearing a skirt. At that moment, he saw a small purple lace. A mature scenery suddenly entered his sight. It was slightly transparent. There were dents and shadows. With just one glance, his line of sight immediately straightened up, and his lower abdomen also had an additional surge of heat. "Do you want to die?" Jiang Rui suddenly realized that Charlotte was staring at the bottom of her skirt. Her face suddenly turned as red as a ripe persimmon. She hurriedly retracted her leg. Her pair of beautiful legs were tightly closed, as if she was afraid that something would crawl in. Charlotte was also very embarrassed. He coughed. "That, I didn't see anything. You're still talking." Jiang Rui was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Charlotte closed his mouth, but in his heart, he secretly said, "If I want to see you, it doesn't matter how many clothes you wear. It's just that you don't know." The atmosphere in the room suddenly became awkward. In the end, Charlotte couldn't resist Jiang Rui's murderous gaze. He got up and went to the window. He looked around the window and then opened it. Chapter 16. Through the open window, one could see the corner of a neighborhood and the street in the distance. Cars were coming and going on the street, and strangers were coming and going. People built a city, but they were also lost in the city. "Lei, what did you find?" Jiang Rui couldn't hold it in anymore. Charlotte shook his head. "Nothing, but I feel that something is wrong." "What's wrong?" Charlotte said. "It's too clean here. There's not even any extra dust in the cracks of the floor. It's like it's been vacuumed." "Didn't Professor Zhang's maid say that she didn't clean it?" Charlotte said. "Professor Zhang's maid didn't clean it, but can't the murderer do the same? He's worried about leaving any traces. After killing Professor Zhang, he cleaned up all the places he had been active in. It's normal that your police technical team couldn't find any traces left by him." "That's possible, but—" Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte with a strange look. "The cracks in the floor are so small. Can you see how much dust is in there?" Charlotte avoided her question and said, "Where is the vacuum cleaner? Take me to see it." "It's in the utility room. I'll take you there." Jiang Rui didn't ask Charlotte how he could see through the cracks in the floor. She brought Charlotte to a storage room in the villa. There were cleaning tools in the storage room, such as a mop, a vacuum cleaner, and a bucket. There were also some other miscellaneous items, but they were all neatly packed. "Has your police technical team checked this place?" Charlotte asked. Jiang Rui thought for a moment. A colleague came to take a look, but it was just a simple look. He didn't check it carefully. Charlotte walked in front of the mop, and his left eye twitched slightly. The wooden handle of the mop was suddenly magnified in his left eye. Everything on the surface of the wood was clearly presented to him. He didn't use a magnifying glass, but he could see it even clearer than a magnifying glass. The handle of the mop was very clean. There were no fingerprints, not even a water stain. Charlotte was even more certain of his guess, which was that the murderer must have cleaned the scene, and after cleaning it, he even wiped the cleaning tools one by one. This was the only explanation. If it was Professor Zhang's maid who did the cleaning, then what she wanted to do was rest and not wipe the handle of the mop. "Lazy, you are so strange today. Just now you were lying on the ground looking at the crack, and now you are looking at the mop. Are you helping me solve the case?" Jiang Rui was even more curious. "Don't talk." Charlotte walked toward the vacuum cleaner. Jiang Rui pouted unhappily. "You look like a detective, but you've never done this before, right? Can you do it? If we don't find anything, let's go out for a walk. If we're lucky, we might even run into the two suspects." "Hey, I'm talking to you. Can you hear me?" She definitely wouldn't shut up, but Charlotte closed his mouth. While Jiang Rui was nagging, he had already finished checking the handle of the vacuum cleaner. The result was the same. The handle of the vacuum cleaner had also been wiped clean. It was as clean as if it had just come out of the factory. His line of sight suddenly fell on the vacuum cleaner's dust container. The black plastic of the dust container suddenly disappeared from his line of sight, and the contents of the container also entered his line of sight. The dust container had not been cleaned. There was still some debris, dust, carpet fibers, and so on inside. A small fingernail and a strand of hair that was embedded in the nail suddenly entered Charlotte's sight. Not only that, but he also saw a trace of dark red blood on the fingernail. Although the murderer was very cunning and careful, he still left behind evidence. But such evidence, other than Charlotte, who had the ability to see through things, who could find it? The corner of Charlotte's mouth couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile. Although he wasn't a detective, and he didn't have the slightest bit of detective experience, with the extraordinary ability of his left eye, he was a natural detective. What are you smiling at? Jiang Rui was full of questions. Charlotte didn't speak. He took the vacuum cleaner's dust container and then walked out. What are you doing? Jiang Rui chased after Charlotte out of the storage room. Charlotte returned to the living room. He found a newspaper, then opened the dust container and poured the garbage inside onto the newspaper. Then he carefully dug away the dust and carpet fibers, revealing the small piece of fingernail that was hidden inside. Say something. Jiang Rui didn't notice the small piece of fingernail. She also didn't understand what Charlotte was doing. Charlotte carefully picked up the small piece of fingernail with a piece of tissue, then handed it to Jiang Rui. He smiled and said, "See, this is the evidence that the murderer left behind." "This you?" Jiang Rui was stunned as she looked at the fingernail in the tissue. Charlotte said, "The blood on this fingernail should be the murderer's, and there's also a hair of the murderer. With these two things, you can find the murderer's DNA and then find the murderer's real identity from your police database. With such a piece of evidence, you can make a detailed report to your superiors. You have the witness and the material evidence in your hands. You will definitely solve this case." Jiang Rui was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, she hugged Charlotte and kissed him on the cheek. I knew it. Ha Lei, you really are my lucky star." The warm and soft squeeze and the light kiss made Charlotte feel as if his acupuncture point was hit. He froze, and his whole body didn't feel good. With Jiang Rui's sexiness, such intimate contact, not to mention a man who had never touched a woman, even a man who had seen countless women would have that kind of reaction. In just 2 seconds, a certain part of him stood at attention. It was very obvious. Jiang Rui, who was stuck to Charlotte, suddenly felt a strange thing pressing against her below, and it was a very sensitive part. She looked down and suddenly pushed away Charlotte. Her white and delicate face was full of blush. What are you thinking about?" Charlotte awkwardly turned around and said, "No, nothing. Do you think I'm blind?" "Bad guy. You must be thinking of something bad." "Disgusting." Jiang Rui spat, and her face became redder. Charlotte quickly diverted her attention. "Well, you'd better do what you should do." Jiang Rui took out her phone. "I'll ask the technical team to come over. With such important evidence, it'll be easy to find the real identity of the suspect." Charlotte suddenly turned around and pressed her hand. "You're stupid. If you call back, Huang Zhonghai will get in the way again. He can easily make the technical team slow down. After a week, you'll be dismissed, and he can use the evidence we found to solve the case. It'll be a great achievement immediately." Jiang Rui frowned. "Then what should we do?" Charlotte said, "Call the leader who promoted you and ask him to send someone over. You can also complain to him and report on Huang Zhonghai. Huang Zhonghai has been against you in every way. Don't you want to get back at him? This is a good opportunity." "Haha, Lei, I really didn't know you were such a bad person. I'll call Director Su now." Jiang Rui smiled and dialed another number. Charlotte stared at Jiang Rui, who was on the phone. His left eye twitched uncontrollably. In his left eye's vision, Jiang Rui's uniform quietly disappeared, and a beautiful white scenery quietly entered his sight. Her chest was full and firm, and the size was amazing. It exuded endless charm. Her waist was slender and soft, and her lower abdomen was flat and smooth. It also had a little baby fat. It was wonderful. Her legs were slender, but they didn't lose their plump beauty. They were as gentle as jade. Such beautiful legs. Even if he played with them for a year, he wouldn't get tired. Also, there was a full of mysterious electricity, and in less than a minute, Charlotte's mouth was dry. He felt as if there was a flame in his lower abdomen, and his whole body was uncomfortable. If he continued to look like this, he might lose his mind and do something out of line. He pinched his thigh hard, trying to use this method to dispel the evil thoughts in his heart, but it had little effect. I'll go to the study room. Charlotte didn't dare to look at Jiang Rui anymore. He didn't dare to stay too long. He turned around and walked to the study room next to the living room. In the study room, there was an antique desk made of gold-rimmed nanmu. There were also two large bookcases, which were also made of gold-rimmed nanmu. This kind of would look golden, with light and shadow flowing. At a glance, one could tell that it was a valuable collectible furniture. This desk and bookcase probably cost hundreds of thousands. This Professor Zhang is really rich. Charlotte thought this in his heart, and then he walked in front of the bookcase. There were many books on the bookcase. There were professional archaeology books, literary classics, and some miscellaneous notes. There were many kinds. Professor Zhang lost his life because of a key. How valuable must this key be for the two suspects to kill him? The information that Rui showed me said that the key might be used to open a warehouse door. The lines on the key might also be part of a map. For such a complicated thing, Professor Zhang couldn't have only left that little research information, right? Charlotte's mind quickly shifted to the case. In fact, finding the evidence left by the murderer could be done here. However, he had a great interest in the cast iron key. He couldn't help but recall the scene of welding the key and the faces of the man in the suit and the sexy woman. Standing in Professor Zhang's study room, he had a very strange feeling that Professor Zhang might still be hiding something, and that thing had not been found by the police and the person who killed him. Since I promised to help Rui, then I will help to the end. I will find clues to help her catch the murderer. Who asked me to see her naked? Just think of it as a sightseeing fee. Charlotte laughed at himself. Then his left eye twitched slightly, and everything in the entire study room suddenly became transparent. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.